still the wrong one, and I need someone so high. Pull up in
Wash away the toxicity.
With my brush on, and yeah, the candles moving, and yeah, the candles moving, and it's time for you to join the current. Here we go again. Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning love and hoping never.
Hustle and grind culture is another version of it. I can sleep when I'm dead. You'll be dead.
It's showtime. Come in and have a drink with the whole crew. Come on then, join the panel or chill from the chat. Do it how you wanna do. The misfits keep the whole chat lit. Ooh, and soon you'll be a part of it too. So come back again, my friend, or we'll come find you. Here we go again.
What's up?
Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning love and hoping never. If it does, oh, we'll be back again. Now let's make one thing clear. Because of you is why we're here. You give us life, you give us love. That is why we want you dear to our heart. Come and join the show, 'cause we need you to grow. So pull up a chair and share with us all of the things you know. Here we go again. Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning love and hoping never. If it does, oh, we'll come back again.
And like the song say, hey, don't, I will come find you. Easy way. Or the hard way.
Amazing.
I got my own platform. If I got something to say, I hit my live button, ho.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. Hey, Rico, since we started this thing, if there's not an audio visual problem, it's not Critically Drinking, man. So
No,
I forgot to
loving
take
that
down the
intro
overlay.
song, man. I'm really loving that intro
intro?
song. I'm glad you didn't have me showing. I was bopping.
Hey, listen.
That thing is
Princess
fire.
K. Princess K. I had that back when we were doing the show together, and I had the intro music just playing with a timer on it. There was a song I liked, and it stuck in my head. So I wrote some lyrics to it, and then Princess K sung it. That was Princess K singing that.
Really?
That's Princess K, man.
Man, I'll get ready to say what professional artist you know. Well,
Princess
salute
K?
to you, Princess K. That was bad.
Yeah, I love
That
it.
was
I love
fire.
it.
I love that.
I'm glad, man. I really appreciate that. You know, all the work we put into to build, man. So definitely. Realistic Vibes. Thank you for being over here. I already got you modded up. I think your first time I think I seen you in the chat. So thank you for being over here. 2 chopsticks. Twitch gang. Mr. He Said, of course, who was on the panel. Greetings, Red Lipstick. Hawaii Bree on the YouTube side. Thank you so much for being here. Danny, Anthony. And of course, the incomparable, the illustrious Princess K on the vocals with the intro song. Thank you so much. Honestly, everybody loves the song, and I know Princess K set that off. So yeah, shout out Princess K, man. Kept it in our little YouTube sphere. Princess K I heard her voice one time. I was over on Knowledge and Relationships. And she just sang like one line or a sentence of something. Mm-hmm. And her voice just stuck in my head. When I heard the melody, I just heard her voice. I was like, man, that's the way to go. And she did it. She was willing to do it for me. So it was beautiful.
Well, you the genius, she the talent.
Box.
Hey, man. You put genius and talent together.
Man, appreciate it. And I owe you a lot, Princess K. Trust me. More than I can pay you. Oh, you more than I can pay you. How about that? Thank you, everybody, for being here. Mr. He Said in the chat. Yeah.
Peace. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you both for being here, Mr. He said. Tribe Called Harris, another wife will be along shortly. Rico, thank you for coming back and gracing us with your. I know you are a busy man, the travel season, and you over there with the Negrosauruses. I know y'all been putting in work. Y'all been putting in a lot of hours on them panels. I'm like, woo. I'm like, y'all got stamina. I'm like, some of them shows be going long, but
I've been talking to those Negro source about it. Dude.
Yeah. But I really thank you both for having here. Now I know a lot of people have had this conversation about Kyrie, Kanye, and I did put on a thumbnail Kulture, but did it with a case. We had a KKK, that little symbolism. But we have I wanted to have the conversation, excuse me, a little differently. I'm going to propose questions, but everything, like I said, a PC culture. So everything's going to have a tie-in to PC. You'll see what I mean shortly. But what I wanted to let you know, I did not do a lot of background. I didn't want to dive too much into it. I didn't want to have like a deeply preconceived notion about what they've been saying. I've intentionally tried to avoid a lot of what they've had to say. I know the basis of it, but I know there's been a lot of stuff that's been put out by Kanye recently, and I know Kyrie's spoken out a bit. But I know you two gentlemen, I know you probably heard most of it. I really wanted to lean on your thoughts and opinions today. I may have some basic roundabout opinions, but I'm really going to, like I typically try to do, take the conversation outside of just them so that it's broadly applicable. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely wanted to lean on your expertise on the specifics, but I'm going to try to help take the conversation broader so it applies to more people, because I think the dynamics at play in the conversation apply to all of us. Let me just catch up where everybody is. Everybody shouting out at each other, man. And Danny, I know you be passing through, but good looking out, man. I saw you on the thumbnail with Chef. You and Vic at the casino with Chef, man. Good looking. Yeah, that was good to see you, bro. I'm glad to see y'all out there hanging. Nova in the building. Nova. That's the man right there. But to get started, everybody, I guess I should ask you, what is this in your... This comment could be very dynamic. Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to take it away from the specifics to a more general sort of, again, the dynamics at play. I think a lot of us need to think about, independent of our individual demographics or identities. I think there are a lot of power dynamics that we need to speak about that everybody should consider. And not your average guy. Thank you for being in the building. Appreciate you. Definitely. But first, just generally and broadly, and I'll bring up the question shortly. What have you two gentlemen thought? Not whoever wants to start. What did you two gentlemen think when the different things happened? Kanye spoke up. He, of course, in my opinion, he did say some ignorant things, but he also said a lot of truthful things. But then he quickly and swiftly got censored, whatever you want to say. Then Kyrie just made a post that shared something, and then he was quickly dealt with as well. So what did you two gentlemen, I guess we'll start with Mr. He said, what did you two gentlemen think about that, the whole situation, like in general? Wale.
In general, I would have to say it was indicative of American culture for me. And only, speaking from a standpoint of, when a man says something, it's not really taken organically. It's not really taken wholeheartedly as truth. And in these instances, just kind of solidified that for me. Kyrie more than Kanye. And, I would always start by saying I don't agree with, the way these guys went about it, or wholeheartedly, with their views and points. But the message is the message nonetheless. And when Kyrie said, he's not about separating people, he just want to get back to the basketball questions, go home to his family. He comes from a place where all walk of life exists, and yada, yada, yada. It's like that wasn't accepted. We fast forward to the media has portrayed that he said completely the opposite. So for me, it's a little insensitive as a man, because it just seems like whenever we say something, no matter if it's in the manosphere, if it's in the sports sphere, or just in our households, sometimes it's just not taken sincerely. It's not taken organically. and not taken as, you know, just the word of a man and registered as that.
About you, Rico? Just, you know, in honor of you being back on the panel, I'm gonna bring you back up, my guy. Bring you back up here, my guy.
Don't do that. I'll be honest. I don't know how you avoided it, because the conversation has been all over the place. I mean, even if you watch mainstream media, they were constantly bringing it up. CNN, ESPN. If you online, it's all in your algorithm. I don't know where you could have been that, you know, you wasn't being inundated with this. For me, I probably, you know, I obviously I don't share either one of them's sentiment. And I never got lost into this whole they're telling the truth, because to me, what they were saying was so dated. It was information. They were saying things that I'm like, we have been saying for 100 years. So what was the point in you even saying it? It just made no sense to me to kick a dog. It's like, oh, did you? I'm like, what the fuck you say that for? It's no point. It seems a senseless fight to pick. And it annoyed me, because if someone had to say that, I just kind of feel like in 2022, if someone had to tell you the information that they said, you're just lost, because you should know that. And I also felt like these two gentlemen knew that when they got in bed with these people. Kanye was a billionaire for the very same people that he now seems to want to open our eyes to, as if we were blind. I'm like, he ain't told me shit. I knew that. So what was the point? He could have just kept quiet and used that money in a more positive way. And it's not going to change anything either. So I was just so annoyed about the whole. I'm like, are we doing this again right now? Because for me as a black man, without delving too deep, and I have nothing against people on a religious bent, because I'm as anti-religion. I'm not against religion. I just don't share or practice any religion. So I could care less if you're a Muslim, if you're a Jew, if you're a Christian. To me, they all three the same thing, and I don't dabble in any of them. I don't knock it, but it's not my cup of tea. To me, a Jew is just another white man. I deal for me, it's about anti-blackness and fighting white supremacy. So I'm not really trying to divide them up into different little buckets. I don't care about light white, medium white, or dark white. They're all still white, and white supremacy for me as a black man is our problem. So I'm like, so why are you even dividing them up? Like all of a sudden, they the bad whites and all the rest are good whites. I'm like, hell no. And I'm talking about white people. I'm just talking about the system. So for me, it's a really stupid thing for the two of them to even get into, when they could have been out here doing something more constructive, and they're not going to change anything. Those people that got that power ain't lost one drop of it. And they're not. All they did was flexed on our asses. So it was just pretty embarrassing. It's pretty embarrassing. They did a flex. We're not going to change anything. If we didn't boycott the NFL behind Kaepernick, which was a more sound, ain't nobody going to boycott the NBA. They're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not the NBA fan base anyway. It's white people. If you look up in them stands, that's 90% white. I watch the basketball games, but I don't pay to go to them. Now that the ticket's $300 a pop, it's what, maybe 10%. So like when we look at all the economics of it and just the reality of what it is, I'm like, what the fuck were they doing? So that's just where my frustration with it. I can get that what they said was true. Give me the point of saying it. I know it's true that, it's going to be cold tomorrow. So you tell me, I'm still going to walk outside in this cold. That's not going to warm it up. That's not going to change anything. And that's just really where the frustration for me came, was what was the point? So without going too long, that's it.
Yeah. I get you. I'm going to tell you, the reason I was able, and it was purely unintentional, the reason I was able to avoid it is because I actually was trying to do content creation. I was actually trying to do and I was cutting up shorts and doing this. I was putting in so much offline work that I actually got taken out of the news sector for about a week. And it paid dividends. I'm gonna tell y'all, just real quick as an aside, I know because Mr. He says on it, him and his family, they be dropping the clips on IG and everything. They really are pushing things like the clips and the shorts. It would actually help your channel as opposed to the long form stuff. It's really weird how they pick and choose. And I guess that's something that I get that might come up. But the curation, the way they curate what's visible to people is another thing. Because I know somebody said something about the mainstream media. And I would consider a lot of these social media platforms another form of mainstream media because they're picking and choosing what we know and what we hear about. They are censoring certain topics, censoring certain voices. And even locally on your local news, you probably don't hear a lot about what's going on in your town. You probably hear about some traffic accidents, a couple of murders, and what the weather's going to be like and what the local sports team does. And it's probably the only thing you would ever hear about in your town, except for maybe once a day, there's one event that you might hear about. So they definitely curate.
These are still large corporations also. I don't know why people think
yes,
a little
yes,
small mom and pop, small business. I'm like, no, YouTube's a large stream corporation, Facebook, Instagram, all these social medias, these are just like NBC, ABC, CBS. They're the same thing. They are literally the same thing. They are corporations, they're online corporations, and those are over-the-air corporations or cable corporations. They're all large, multi-billion-dollar industries, and all they care about is money.
And that's what we have to be conscious of because somebody did a video and they edited a whole lot of local news, and they showed different people from different places all saying the exact same thing verbatim. So even there, the news is curated. So what we know about a lot of times is curated. So when I hear people talk about it's a distraction, well, it might be because if they're force feeding you what they want you to be concerned about, it's definitely at least a diversion. Even if distraction is not the best word, they're at least diverting your attention to exactly what they want you to know about. I know people talk about what is that, selective outrage. Somebody selected what they wanted you to be mad about because that's what they told you. Even the Kyrie and Kanye, somebody has a camera interface or somebody has a microphone. So there's a level of selectivity on some level.
Yeah.
This is she said.
And Arshan, I heard a word during the midterm, one of the politicians, and he called it the industry of angertainment. And he coined his word, and everybody was like, "What?" And it was like, "Yes, angertainment, where it's always about keeping people ginned up, so they, instead of entertainment, angertainment." And I was like, you know what? I think that's a real thing. It's probably been around longer than we coined a term for it, but I was like, yeah, you got spaces and places and even algorithms that feed us that.
Real quick, I want to shout out Reckless Logic who came through. No Reckless from over there on let me see, Conscious TV's channel, but Reckless Logic has his own YouTube. Reckless Logic, thank you for being over here. If you're still in the chat, appreciate you for stopping by, bro. And we got a new chatter. We got Chronic Rolling. When I saw Chronic Rolling, I immediately thought of Chronic Citizen and JP, but I don't think that's JP because it said, "What's up, yo?" First time chatter. Thank you, Chronic, for being in the building. Thank you for stopping through.
Oh yeah,
having a conversation.
Shout out to my state. We passed recreational. State of Maryland.
Recreational weed?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's what's
July,
up.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So more and more. So the Chronic,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's gonna be nationwide.
Like you said, Rico, when you go out and you voice your opinion for the things that you care about, that's what's important. You know what I mean? And that's what makes a difference, and it shows. So like you said, shout out to the people that came out, made their choice and voiced their opinion, took advantage of that opportunity that we have to get out.
Yeah.
I like that. We definitely need to talk about that too. I don't think I have that on there, but I do have a. Well, let's bring that up. I'm gonna bring that up to the top then. About the voting thing, because we just had the midterms. Just had the midterms. A lot of results are still rolling in. There's a few, runoffs, this, that, and the other. A lot of close contentious races. But this PC culture, how can people in an extreme minority position gain political clout? That's the PC, political clout. Rico, Mr. Harris. Now we talk a lot about the Black community. We have a lot of people that push the voting from all sectors.
Mhm.
But if you're an extreme minority, just on the numerics, on the mathematics alone, how can people in that position gain political clout? Because we all know right now we don't feel like we have any.
Well, you're only going to be able to do it in this. It's really, for full transparency, I'll say I lean more Democratic than Republican. Okay. And it's not just traditional, as people would like to say, oh, you're on the plantation. I'm like, okay, so I leave one plantation, go to another. They're both the same. It really doesn't make any difference. Ultimately, if you know you're in a minority, and even as minorities, as Black people, we're a smaller minority than Hispanics at this point, because I think Hispanics is like maybe 25% of the population. We're like 13, and they're expected to grow. We're growing much slower. The Asian population, which probably won't catch us, but it's getting close enough. At some point in time, and I see in all these spaces where we're pushing this Black exclusivity, we're going to push ourselves into a corner of getting that, because when you, as you said, it's math, Arshawn. If you are an extreme minority, you're only going to get political clout or power through alliances. So you're not going to be able to get it, say like, oh, I'm 5% of the population. Why don't you do nothing? Because you're 5%. But if I can take my 5% and put it with someone else's 5% and put with someone else's, you can create a bigger political pact or party. The problem is trying to get all of those different alliances to find something to join in together. And the only thing I would say, what's probably splintering us even worse is Black people right now. Even within the Black people, believe it or not, I'm seeing a fracture between politically Black men and Black women.
Yes.
Politically. And that's weakening us, making us even more weak. But literally, I mean, I literally see Black men, and I'm not saying all, but I'm just saying loud voices reveling and celebrating at the demise of Black women. And saying how they're parroting a lot of the, I'll say, right-wing white manosphere talking points about, oh, Black women, like as if they don't have any intellect or intelligence. Oh, they're voting emotionally. I'm like, no, they're voting their best interest. You don't think it is, because typically white women will vote against their interest and just follow their men, no matter what their men say. Black men want Black women to do the same thing, and they're saying, no, we're going to vote our best interest and not just so white women will actually vote against their own interests, and just in particular Republican women, they will vote with whatever the man say, and they don't necessarily align with that themselves. So all I'm sitting there saying is difficult in this, and I've seen it for probably the last few political cycles, but even among the 13% of Blacks, we don't vote as a block, not saying that we should, but we don't vote enough as a group, and as other groups do, so they attain more power because we won't. You actually have Black men who are currently aligning themselves with white men's political stances because they're under the belief that at some point Zaddy gonna reward them. And what they end up doing is leaving the rest of us behind, because they do weaken our base as a race. And that's just, and I've been into politics heavy, but that's my read on it, always has been. If somebody can, if you got to look at it outside of the scope of yourself and look at in the scope of the collective, if you follow the data, so Black men and Black women lose. The Black men ain't gonna get what they want, and the Black women ain't gonna get what they want. So we just gonna stay perpetually down there at the bottom.
I like that. What about you, Mr. He said? I do want to speak to what Rico said about the further division of the minority position, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think like not your average guy. I kind of align myself with the independent party only because of I just can't pledge my allegiance, pre-beknownst. I don't know what you stand for. I don't know, what your talking points are. So I'm gonna listen and see who makes the best argument and kind of go from there. But I absolutely agree with brother Rico and the brother in the chat. It's it's a grassroots thing. If I'm going to answer your question, like Rico said, you got to take your 5%, you got to put it with somebody else's 5%, but it has to be a grassroots. It has to be a family, a community, type of approach that we take. And like he said, with us being so divided, it's really hard to get back to family, to even come on the same page, to find out what political direction we're going to go in as a family, because we can't even get the dynamics of who gonna cook tomorrow. So it's really hard, but I think it all starts with grassroots. I think we have to have confidence and faith in each other to if we're not knowledgeable, that my brother's going to bring me along and we're going to grow together. And with that mindset, I think we push forward as a collective. But like Brother Rico said, man, you got so many that just are so out of touch and don't want to be on the same page. And it's like we're saying, hey, this is what you do, and they're like, no. And it's just so hard. But we gonna keep trying. Me and Brother Rico here. Sean is here.
Yeah, I definitely want to do better than we have done. I also know I'm not somebody with answers. I have way more questions than answers. I can admit that. That's why I come with these questions. I have so many questions. I have so few answers, but I do want to address a couple of points. I know Rico said that. What's wrong with black men siding with white views? And I would just ask though, because I'll even push. Like, I know we like the word pushback. I'll even push back on Rico. What is a black view, and what is a white view? Because I really think sometimes at the base of it, what a lot of us overlook, I know there's a public pressure of like embracing the color thing, whatever identity, gender, there's all kinds of stuff. But how can we have a similar view, like a same world view? Because like you said, you talked about alliances, which means you have to have some point of commonality that probably doesn't exist on the level of color. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about black people as a super minority or small minority. Well, then we have to go past melanin to find alliances. So there has to be a point of commonality in philosophy, an outcome, a goal. Like, there has to be something that we share. So where do we find that? And is it only on the basis like black men, black views, white men, white views? Because really quickly, and I'll let you answer this question. What I see, why I had to let go of some of the black identity label, what I saw, the power structure was steamrolling everybody. It's not just black people. Like, white people are getting steamrolled by this system. Native Americans got steamrolled. Asians are getting steamrolled. Everybody's getting steamrolled. The system's a problem. The system just happens to be headed by like a small minority of whatever white people we want to say is there. But that seems to be a bigger problem. But I want to let you answer that question.
Well,
clarify.
Let me put it this way. So, and in particular, the reason why I say this is, so for example, and that's how I look at it. I don't always look at, I rarely look at anything by race. I look at it by where I fit in on a socio-economic scale, which is not bad, but I also have empathy for the people below me, because I always say, there but for the grace of God go I. I used to be at the bottom of the socio-economic scale. I worked my tail off, and through hard work and luck, I've gotten to a very comfortable place. See, I don't believe I'm here strictly because of myself. I know there's a good chunk of luck. There was a good chunk of people who came before me who made sacrifices that gave me the ability to be where I'm at. So I always look back to help. So and the only time I bring it into the race thing, and I would tell people, so when I hear black men like speaking on issues of crime, we know disproportionately people of color are incarcerated. So, criminal justice should be a concern of ours. I'm not going to align with John down the street who just want to do more law and order. I'm like, that's putting more people of color incarcerated. When we got to the education issue over the last cycle, all this screaming about critical race theory. Again, you got black people out there, we don't want critical race theory, and don't know what the hell it is. And it's not even being taught in the school, but they are aligning with that political ideology, which is not reflective to support you in any way, because oftentimes they're just bamboozled with this stuff about, they're going to push critical race theory, and no one still can't even find it anywhere, but I've seen so many people of color out there fighting against it. I'm like, they're teaching slavery. Stop it. So I'm just saying, we generally, as a person of color, with the exception of Obama, we've always had to pick a white person. So we've always picked a white person view for the 250 years we've been in this country. We've always voted for someone white minus Obama. However, you can look for an ideology that's more supportive to favor your community. So again, like I said, thank God the state of Maryland, we legalized recreational use. But for years, for years, I thought, because I don't smoke marijuana, but I'm like, shit, I guess if they say it's crazy, it makes you crazy and gonna cause more crime, this, that, whatever. But we got to break out of that, because I don't think there's enough people of color running for office, engaging in office. Because again, I tell people all the time, you don't like them, I agree. I want to see more of us run, but we're distant from it. So I do think most of the problem, just to sum it up, their class, like you said, Arshawn, it's poor people who are being fooled into voting against their interests. I've always said taxes is not a black man's problem. There's not enough of us proportionally to earn such a significant. So when they did the big tax cut, I didn't lose and I didn't win a damn thing. So what that, I'm never gonna vote on tax cuts because I never benefit from it. I never do. It's like that's not even a white man's game. That's a rich man game. And rich people in America are predominantly what? White. There's a few rich black people, but it ain't nowhere near enough of us for me to give a damn about them paying more taxes. Matter of fact, I think the wealthy should pay all the taxes. 100%. They got the fucking money. Why? I don't understand why poor people care about rich people paying taxes. It just defies my logic. I'm like, they got the money. Jay-Z, Kanye, they got billions. Let them pay all the taxes and don't take no taxes out my check. Don't take none from Arshawn. Don't take none from Mr. He said. Anybody that make under a certain amount should not pay no taxes. And all those rich people, they should pay it all. They got it. I really do believe that. I get always frustrated when poor people are crying about, but they're paying more tax. I'm like, they're never going to let you up there. Stop. They don't even know you're poor. They don't care if we're poor. So stop caring that they got to pay more. That's it. So that's where my political views get to. So we just really got to stop it. So certain things fall along the color line. More things fall along the class line. And that's just my 2 cents. I hope that made sense.
Nah, that's it was a lengthy but understandable response to that question. I mean, because the guy did push back on your thought process, because you did use a racial language when you spoke about it. But you did come back to the point that it's probably a lot to do with class than it is with race currently. And I'm gonna come back to that in the second question, because he did propose a question. I wanted to argue, or not argue. I wanted to discuss with people of thoughtfulness, but you had mentioned something in the last thing, Rico. How can we unify if we continue to further divide with more and more personal collectives? So we keep having these sub collectives, like instead of black people, it's the African-centric black people, then the Christian black people, and da. So again, like you said, we get down to 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%. Because out of that 15%, half of that are under the age of 18 anyway. And we even classify by class, by economics. So and how many people don't have the right to vote because of like a criminal record? So like our numbers. So that's why I go back to the alliance thing. The alliance thing is necessary, but there are, like I said, there are other people that are steamrolled by the system. So it makes sense to me to not get into the personal collective, the one I like. I think that's what people mean when they say identity politics. At the root of it, I think almost all politics are identity based. It's just which level of identity are you identifying with? Your personal identity. I'm a gay man, so everything has to be rooted through that. Or I'm a black Christian, and everything has to be rooted through that. I would rather unify around the version of me that more people suffer through. I am somebody who is adjacent to poverty. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot more of me's in the economic conditions I'm in. Their education level, some college, and below this level of income. I think there's a lot of me's out there. So that's the identity I would want to politically try to galvanize to let's do something together, as opposed to black man in this city. You know what I'm saying? That's my thinking on it. But how can we unify? And I'm gonna start with Mr. Harris. How can we unify if we're still fighting through all these personal collectives, these small subgroups?
I mean, that's where maturity comes in. Maybe age, maybe experience, but whatever gives you the wisdom to see through, like you said, all of these boxes and all of these smoke screens to keep us separated, to keep us from building. Because, in my opinion, if you're not building, you're destroying. So you got to pick your side. And if you're going to be a person that wants to build, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to, again, be susceptible to knowledge if you might not be, knowledgeable in certain areas, and be willing to come to your counterparts and say, I need to be, brung along in a certain fashion. And I think politics and taxes and these things are not something that were very prevalent in our community as far as knowledge, unless you went out and you sought that knowledge. So, I think we do have to get back to grassroots, to meeting at somebody's house on Saturday, maybe playing cards or whatever the case may be. But this is when, the community grows, and when that knowledge is able to be passed down. And I think people are even willing to accept the knowledge. I don't know if it can just come from a stranger anymore. We're so, like you said, separated. But I think we have to see above and rise above these subclasses that we put ourselves in order to break the cycles and try to get a different outcome.
What about you, Rico?
Well,
how do we unify on the subdivision?
I can tell you, like I said, this is one of those where, like you said, they said, I got more questions than answers, because I can start with the premise that I know, minus myself, you, Mr. Harris, maybe Bree, and a few others, and this is just people I know in my personal circle, but I really believe that the average person is politically illiterate, because people are disinterested in it. So they don't even know what would benefit them. They typically vote for things that would hurt them out of ignorance, because people I can tell you, even in my own household, and even among my kids, I fight. You should see the way I rail about going about. I was the only damn person that voted last Tuesday. I was pissed. I was mad as hell. I was screaming and cursing at everybody, because and that is not an uncommon thing, but it is so frustrating just to get people to participate. America has some of the lowest voting percentages of all the industrialized nations in the world. I think maybe 30% of our population even participates. Less than half Americans vote. Other countries are mandatory. Third world countries have mandatory vote. Australia, mandatory voting. Ecuador, mandatory voting. You must vote. So their government is representative of even if those people don't know what the hell they're voting for, they have to participate. We don't know, and we don't participate because we're apathetic and lazy, but then we want to complain about the outcome. We'll complain about the outcome, but we don't participate. So what makes it difficult is, again, it's like you're dealing with a large populace of people that are, let's face it, they're ignorant to what you're trying to teach them. And it's hard. So the only thing I think the best chance is it's going to have to take some sort of, this is what the masses will fall for, a charismatic leader, an Obama type that will come along to engage them, because that's what they fall for. They fall for the superficial, the shallow. And that's what we did. We did that, in 2008 and 2012, because it was representation, and I get that. But those people only come once in a lifetime. I don't know if we're going to see another one like him. We're going to vote for other people, and other people will win. But another charismatic leader that can talk to the masses and get on their brain at a base level. Look, This is what we got to do, folks. We can change things so that all the people at the bottom, that you're not left behind, that you're not hurt, that we're going to invest in you. But short of somebody being charismatic, they're just not going to go out and read. So I watch political shows. I read political. I just like that shit. I'm nerdy about politics, not just about US politics, but about world politics. Most people, unless you're a political nerd, you're not into it. And in our communities, we have some, but far too few. And then when we talk, no one wants to listen to us because we don't have charisma. You have to have, that's what you have to, it's a shame that that's what it takes. It's sad that that's what it takes, but that's what it takes.
No, I definitely agree. Let me see. I'm just going to catch up on some of these chats. Yeah, there's a lot more talk than action. That's part of the charisma. We'll fall for the talk. We'll listen to the sweet lies instead of taking the bitter truth. There's a lot of what you said is true. We are politically illiterate. I think to a lot of degrees, Rico. I think there's a lot more illiteracy, not just politically. I think there's like, honestly, vocabulary and comprehension issues, actual reading illiteracy. I think there's like an innumeracy, like an inability to understand how numbers work. I think there are a lot of things that the knowledge gap is growing to the point that we're more easily controllable. I think Not Your Average Guy said something about controllability. I think the lack of knowledge that we're imparting on the young generations, because we're putting a lot of useless stuff at them and not a lot of like useful, like productivity, being able to be self-sufficient. A lot of that stuff's been stripped from the educational system.
And what I was going to say, just to add to, because I think Nova Renee, which is a good thing, the charismatic person is going to have to be selfless. You know, it's and it's kind of crazy. They're going to almost have to say, look, I'm going to make a martyr of myself because I'm going to be speaking some truth to these people to get them to look at. And of course, they're going to have to fight the body politic. So at the same time, I'm charismatic and I'm fighting against the system that has always favored the privileged over the unprivileged. And now I'm talking to the unprivileged and I'm trying to talk to them like, hey, look, I'm going to run. I'm trying to bring us together to make us a powerful political bloc so that we can get things done for us. But I may end up being a martyr because you better believe these people are going to come for me, especially when that's what they don't fear. They feel like, oh, there's nobody. They're not going to, they know that we're illiterate. They know we're not paying attention. So they sit over there and they wheel and deal and they do all their backdoor crap because they know they're not going to do anything. They stupid, they sleep, they this, they that. And that's what happened. And every election cycle, most of them don't even come out and vote. So why should I care? Why should I care? You ain't gonna come out and vote. I think they had the big turnout this year because there were things like, which I was surprised because they said it was a big, I was shocked to see like abortion get beat back in Kentucky. You know, the repeal, I'm like, Kentucky? And they voted to, so, they'll come out for certain issues, but like the next one, they won't. They just won't. So,
hey, real quick, Rico. Yeah. I saw that knowledge and relationships in the building. Appreciate you. And Mr. Intellectual Soapbox, appreciate you coming through. Yes, this was an invite. There may be a couple more people popping up, but I did close it off. But I sent you a text. There is something specifically I did want to reach out to you about because there's something I want to see, but I haven't set it up. So I didn't reach out to you yet because I haven't done the legwork on it. But I definitely want to have you on something specifically because your voice is important. And there's something I wanted you to, a specific role I wanted to see if you would work with me on. But I'll reach out to you independently once I have more information. There's a couple guys also I've talked to, Marcus, Wally, Jay Takashi. So because I haven't done the legwork in the background, I've been slow to reach out. So give me a little bit more time, fellas. Thanks for the, I want to do something more with the gentlemen that are in the space. I think it's necessary. And I think there are certain types of conversations that are needed to pull us away from some of the stuff that just hasn't been particularly growth developing. I think amongst the men, I think we engage a little bit too much in not distraction. What's the word? Escapism. I think we retreat, like avoiding, like you said, the political the political, because it's a little boring, it's a little dry to get into the politics. So we engage a little bit too much in pleasure. So I wanted to try to build something, but I haven't gotten my mind wrapped around it. And Mr. He said somebody I look forward. That's like I would say a mentor in this space. I watch him as an example of how to operate. So like a lot of the content I did, like the way I want to format my content is like he is Mr. Harris, a brilliant man. The way he takes a video and dissects it and has all the points laid out based upon that one clip and all the different, I'm like, that's exactly what I strive to be. So that's why I love having Mr. Harris in the space. And I always shout him out as far as an example of everybody talks about relationship goals when they look at celebrities, but right here in this space, we have an example of relationship goals. Him, Mr. He said, and Mr. She said, you can tell by the way they operate together that they love each other, admire each other, respect each other. Like they ain't got to be a celebrity. Like look at the people right here that can show you what it looks like to foster a positive relationship. Like we have that present. So like I don't ever want to overlook that because we need more examples and models. Red Lipstick Vibes, thank you for coming through. Thank you for coming through. I did want to skip over to the next question real quick, but I had to run my mouth real quick. The gentleman that asked the question in the chat, it was a response to something of yours, Rico. But the gentleman that asked something about, do we play a role in our own criminality, like interfacing with the incarceration? So how do we resolve the issue with proportional criminality? Now, this is a big question. What factors play into our overrepresentation? Now, we always go into like this. We know there are systematic issues, but how do we resolve? Because there's this always question I hear from like conservatives. Well, if you have the opportunities, why do the problems still persist? And I have to admit, like on a certain level, we have to accept personal accountability. I know the psychological issues we accept in personal. If you're not aware, you're not aware. If you have a socialized mind, you have a socialized mind, whether that's towards destruction or not. But at some point, like on an individual level, we can't escape culpability for making poor decisions. We try to get out of it, but we need to. So is the problem, like percentage-wise, the system or the individual? And like, how do we divide that blame pot? Because we have to take some responsibility for our actions and inactions, inability to police our own communities.
I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's both. I would never say that if there, but let's face it, there are clearly systemic issues about the systemic issue of over policing Black neighborhoods and Black bodies, criminalizing the most minor thing that we do. There are laws that and they don't treat it the same way in other communities. It even starts as small as, I would say, the criminalization of Black students within schools, whether it's the punishment or the expulsion or the suspension. That's a form of criminalizing, which is just a precursor to them before they get into the criminal justice system, and they're disproportionately done. So,
real quick, this was the question I was made that too. So,
yes, so it's a combination of both. We are responsible. Now, it's kind of hard to say at what percentage level. If I just pulled out off the top of my head, I'll say 50-50, just to make it an even split. But it could be 60-40, it could be 70-30. I'm not quite sure, because I do know that there are a lot of spaces where I say, in my mind, where I place it on the community, and I say it'll even start in the home. Because within the home, and just about every person that's doing criminal behavior in every home, the members of that home know that they're doing it. They're not doing anything in secret. No one's any slick. So we have a reflexive instinct to defend criminality because it's a person of color. Because the reflex is, well, if it was somebody white, well, that might be true, but it still doesn't mean they didn't commit the crime. So I really don't care. So that's what I used to always tell my kids. Well, if it was somebody white, well, goddamn it, who told you was white? So, you can't, but we have that reflexive instinct, and even among your peer group. So take it outside of the home. How many times growing up as a young teen, you see your boy going to the store shoplifting? We ain't gonna knock it. We're not gonna tell him not to do it. Matter of fact, we see in neighborhoods where we tell them, oh, when you go back, get me something. The hookup, that's criminal behavior. You go into the store, somebody working the register, oh, don't ring that up. That's criminal behavior. So we have lots of mechanisms throughout, I know, our culture, our behavior, been there, done it, committed a few of these infractions myself. I ain't gonna say, hell yeah, I used to, when I didn't have it, I lived for the hook a brother up. But some of that criminality is also born out of poverty too. Remember, poverty is the greatest indicator of criminal behavior. Poor people do criminal shit. And that's just not black people. That's white people too. You know what I'm saying? But they don't police the trailer parks as much as they police the hood. I mean, because poor white people steal like at the same rate as poor black people. Same thing as poor Asian. Not just in America, all over the world. Poor people steal and commit crimes because they're poor. I'm not saying it's an excuse for them to commit the crimes. I will never say that. However, that's where it is. And not only poor people. Poor people, poor people commit crimes because they're poor. Rich people commit crimes just because they can. They steal, do all kinds of shit. I mean, at a worse level. Why? Because they can. Because they know they're not going to get caught. And know that when they get caught, they know two things. I won't be punished, or if I'm punished, it will be nowhere near as severe or warranting what I did. That's what they know. So if you want to wake up tomorrow, you want to wake up a rich white man, you commit all the damn crimes you want and either not get punished or get punished nowhere severe. But if you're poor and a person of color, they will throw your ass under the jail for the most minor infraction. Just think of, I'll say, Khalif Browder. Anybody know the story of Khalif
Rest in peace to the God. Yes, near and dear to my heart. Rest in peace to Khalif.
For something that minor, that's a commonality. So again, it's not that, that black people haven't played a hand in it and we got to do better there, but hell yeah, it's systemic as well.
And what about you, Mr. He said?
I think like most of the chat is saying, we got to start with accountability. So I do think we put ourselves in a position to be placed at the mercy of the court. And, I do think we have been indoctrinated to make that choice easier. And, with school, like, the brother was alluding to, it's a part of the indoctrination. And I'm gonna go a different direction from him. The dim lighting, this succinct nature of how you should act, sit down, listen to authority, regurgitate this information, lunchroom, you don't eat if you ain't got no money on your books. It really kind of gets you ready so that when you do make those insensitive choices and you end up in the hooskow, it's really not that new to you because you've already been accustomed to the way it's gonna go and kind of ready for the system. But I do agree with the chat that we place ourselves there. I say it all the time. Whenever I see somebody getting locked up or somebody, God forbid, take a bullet at 11 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm asking my wife, like, why wasn't he at work? Like, I get that you got to do what you got to do, brother, but do it after work. But I think that's a maturity, man. We all been young, like Rico said. None of us are, removed from the behavior of a young man, but at the same time, we take that certain accountability that we put ourselves in these positions and in these predicaments. And I think that's what these guys, they don't do. They think they're young. They think they're invincible. They think they're invulnerable. And it's not the case. When you get at the mercy of the court, they're not going to show mercy on you. So, this is where the politics come in and how, your whole conversation ties in. But I do think we have to have a little more sophistication. I say it all the time, fellas, we got to be more than just simple. We have to know that knowledge is a grain of sand. And for every grain you get, it's a bunch you don't have. So you need to be sports. You need to be politics. You need to be romance. You need to be charming. You need to be witty, all of these things. And it just comes with the responsibility of us being men to have this well-rounded knowledge and I'm gonna end by saying this. A lot of people call me an asshole. A lot of people call me condescending, but they do not call me unintelligent. To be those things, you have to be able to take information and spit it back in a certain fashion. People may like it, some people don't, but I'm always going to be intellectual about how we approach conversations, how I go about how I live my life, because it's absolutely conscious. I'm a reflection of people who I represent and who represent me, and I'm going to always carry myself in that fashion. That was a great question, though.
Can I add one other thing before you hop on, Arshawn?
Yeah,
And I just want to say this too, because again, and I don't want to lean into the systemic part too much, but I do think that it's a part that maybe I'm a wee bit older than the rest of y'all, just a wee bit. But I just want to say that back in the day, systemically, the government had more, I would say, crime prevention programs that existed all over the country, in particular in a lot of large inner cities. So a lot of people don't realize, people have quietly watched the government has quietly closed in cities because of funding issues. A lot of recreational centers have just gone. When I grew up, there was almost a rec center almost on every block. You could barely go 2 blocks before you could run into another rec center that had a basketball court, ping pong table, chess club, a boxing gym. You had, like, born in DC, every police station had what they would call Metropolitan Police Boys and Girls Club. That's what it was called. And they would do boxing, and they had a football team. So as a kid, the police precinct in my neighborhood ran the recreation center where you was actually affiliated with the police. And because the worst thing to have is a poor, bored child. That's a recipe for fucking trouble and disaster. So this 12, 13-year-old kid in an inner city, gang-infested neighborhood that's poor and doesn't have anything positive or productive to do. You're asking him. So back in the day, these kids could be like, "Well, I don't want to join a gang. I don't want to hang out. I'm get out of school every day." And kids would get out of school and go to the rec center until it was time to go in the house and go to bed. Playing ping pong, shooting pool, all kinds of stuff. Those places, because cities and state government, it's not federal government, it's the state government and the local government. People, again, just to tap back into that politics, you better get into your local shit. That's the stuff you need to be beating up on your local elected leaders about. Saying, hey, we need something out here for these kids to do, because if they don't have nothing positive to do, then you can spend money on the rec center, or you can spend more money on the police and the jails. But you're going to spend money. You can save money on police and prisons by putting some preventative measures in place to help some of these young boys and girls. And the girls are getting just as bad nowadays because of the same. If they don't have anything positive, but this stupid box that we're talking in right now, and we know this is full of all kinds of the worst things that they should have, but this is all we give them. We ain't giving them
Rico.
nothing. So
let me actually. This is actually. I want to jump to the actual first question I actually had. We've been on a the questions I've been putting up were actually questions that popped up during the conversation. So I actually wanted to get to a little bit to, like, in the Kyrie Kanye dynamic. In your opinions, and I'll start with you, Rico, are we witnessing, and I know this is hyperbole, the public castration of men when they speak up for themselves? I know Mr. Mentioned something about men when they speak up for themselves, the reaction in society. And I put black in parentheses because I don't think this is particular just to black men. I've seen it in other domains. Mm-hmm. But are we witnessing the correction of a man when he speaks up? Speechless.
I like it. You got it.
I never see Rico.
No, I'm trying to be honest, right? Yeah. I'm forced, as much as I don't want to say yes, I'm forced to say yes, because the dynamics are playing out where he's being publicly chastised and called to the carpet about his beliefs and his thoughts. in what he's saying. Do I think it's, first of all, again, we talking about a guy that was a billionaire and on his worst fucking day, he's still worth $500 million. So I don't care.
Right.
He ain't gonna be, he can never be, somebody that wealthy can never be my fucking victim. He can take your 500 million, go away and shut up, because you're not the one that needs to be talking anyway. I'll be honest with you, because again, we had the perfect person and we didn't listen to him. And he was an athlete and he did all the things right. He wasn't doing no White Lives Matter, none of that crazy shit. It was Colin Kaepernick. He protested the right way for the right reason, doing the right thing, and he was treated the same way, canceled, diminished, lost everything. And we stood nowhere near behind him as much as we screaming about some damn Kanye who going to tomorrow be talking about black lives is a scam. I'm like, really? I can't do it with him. Kyrie, I can do it a little bit with, even though I'm tired of him. But Kanye, I can't. But the mechanisms and the dynamics of it is yes, he is being castrated. I know it's hyperbolic. Yeah, they're cutting his nuts off. But we should have cut his nuts off when he put that White Lives Matter shirt on. Why wouldn't we cutting his nuts off? That's the question. So we're mad. I'm like, why are we mad that the Jews are doing it when we should have cut his nuts off when he said slavery was a choice, when he said Black Lives Matter is a scam, when he wore the White Lives Matter t-shirt? Why the hell wasn't black people cutting his nuts off? That's the bigger question. It's like, I'm like, I don't care what he said about you. I'm mad about what he said about us. And no one cared. No one cared. So if the Jews doing it, I'm like, I give him a thumbs up. Thank God. Shit, I wanted us to do it. I wanted us to take his fucking head off, because he shouldn't have said what he said about George Floyd. When he said that shit about George Floyd, we should have cut his nuts off, but we didn't say nothing. So no, I'm not mad that the Jews did it. I'm glad they did it. We should have cut his fucking nuts off, because you know what? I think about that 17-year-old girl that had to film George Floyd being murdered. The trauma that she has to relive because he bring that shit up. I think about his daughter. I think about his family and friends, because this asshole just want to say whatever he wants to say. Why do we forget all of that black pain, but we want to defend a person that theoretically should be in no pain? That was a billionaire that could have just shut the fuck up. I swear, I feel like I'm being punked. This is just, look at all of that and tell me why he's the victim. And all of these, I'm just, forget the Jewish part. George Floyd, White Lives Matter, slavery was a choice, Black Lives Matter. How much do we have to be walked over before we take a stand for us? That's my question with Kanye. When do we pull that brother to the side and say, hey, that's it? Because if it was my son, I would have been choked his ass out. I don't care if it's my flesh and blood. I will not allow them to continue to do that, to dishonor and disrespect the family. And we just gonna go, well, he my son. No, I don't roll like that. That's not how I was raised. You can cross the line as blood that you're done. You're disowned. He done that to the black family too many times. That's all.
Yeah. What about you, Mr. Harris?
I definitely hear what Rico was saying. But for me, I would probably sum that up to those are just the bones. You know how people say eat the meat and spit out the bones? I think those are the bones. I definitely don't agree. I would have never took that approach in jargon and the sensitivity, the lack thereof of those statements. But at the same time, again, I spit those bones out. The ones that I do chew and swallow is the meat ones. The ones when he said, you know, he's no longer subscribing to this culture. of victimization, of ascribing to European fashion, of spewing violence on the radio and ascribing to this level of violence. I definitely digested all of the things he said about the certain particular group of people who run the entertainment and boxing and jewelry, and so it was certain meat that I could digest, and definitely bones that I could spit out. But to answer your question, absolutely. And again, indicative of American culture. Like you said, this transcends to all men, not just us as Black men. None of us get any say at the family barbecue when it comes to the kitchen. All of us are told to get out the kitchen. We got this. And that's what we talking about. Some of us do have culinary skills. Some of us do want to learn from you women. Some of us just want to build, and being shunned away, the conversation going a certain way, the way it's been going for so many years. And now it's kind of changing is just, the climate that I see. But when men say something, I'm a man in a house with, 5 women consistently. Sometime mom-in-law comes in, and maybe 7 to 8 overall with godchildren and some. And yes, they can be a little controlling. They can be a little emotional and manipulative with it. And if we don't call it out, it'll snowball. And all we do is, sometimes we call it out, sometimes insensitive, I will say. And sometimes it tastes like, really hard medicine versus the bubblegum flavor one. But I do think that overall, we as men need to be considered. And again, the more sophisticated man, the more intelligent, the more valuable leader that he proves himself to be, I think the more he should be considered. And we do know that there are some that are not capable to lead. I say give them the rope, let them hang themselves, and then the proof's in the pudding. We see it, ladies. But we know, us as men, we're not insensitive to the ones that are not as capable. But at the same time, I believe they deserve the chance. So I believe men need to be listened to a little more. I do think it is the public castration of men, because when we speak, sometimes it's kind of pushed to the side. And it is a little insensitive, but we get through it.
Really quickly, I do want to acknowledge the raid. Thank you, Kwai Bree, for bringing your viewers over here. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate it, Kwai Bree. Because I'm doing most this on the YouTube pretty much side, I'm not going to play the raid video. It will be my first time playing the raid video, but I'm not going to do that right now because the audiences are so different. But thank you for your responses, gentlemen. I do want to say the one thing I disagree with sincerely, Rico, is there were 2 points that you made that I have a strong disagreement with. One is that because we should have done it, I agree with that part. But then you were happy that the Jewish people or whoever castrated like Kanye, you were glad that they did it. I don't know. I have a problem with that when on the fundamental. Like if my nephew messes up, if I fail to correct him, I don't want somebody outside correcting him. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm going to have an identity to the group, let me correct him. And if I fail, I fail. But I don't want, because the way you're going to do it is never going to be with any compassion or empathy. And that goes to my second part. If we're talking about excelling or being effective in the current system, if you do that and you can amass like $1.5 billion, which is what everybody says, hey, we need the money, we need the capital, and then we can build. Well, if he has the money and the capital, and then they can cut that into 1/3, they can cut your value into 1/3 from Tuesday to Wednesday.
A quarter.
Like, a quarter, a third, whatever. If they can shed your worth, like Thanos snapping it away, that's a problem. Like that's a serious problem, because that means no matter where you ascend to, somebody still has a light switch where they can just cut all that off. The faucet just whoop. Okay. And not even just the faucet, not like you're just still getting poured into. Everything that's in your bucket, they're just whoop, let's take some of this out too. That's a problem. Because that means us on the bottom, us in the working class, lower class, poverty class, whatever, then we have no hope. So then there's a whole nother problem. Then the system is too powerful. Because even if we have $1 billion and they're starting to build, and they can snatch permits, they can eminent domain, take away properties, cut through our communities after we build them. Where then do we find some power? I'll let you respond to that.
Well, I'll say this. Okay, to the first point about and I agree with you. Like I said, so let me be clear. I didn't relish the fact that the Jews cut his nuts. I relish the fact that he got his nuts cut because he was out of control. and he wouldn't stop. And I felt like because, yes, we should. So that goes back to the point where the question was about the criminality. How much responsibility do we take? That's another instance where Black people are letting Black people. He committed a crime against us, and we just looked the other way. So my point was, I didn't relish the fact that the Jews did it. I just relished the fact that somebody did it. I wouldn't care if it was the LGBT community. I didn't give a damn because I was so mad waiting for us to say, okay, this nigga music ain't that good. Fuck this shit. It's enough. As much as we stay with R. Kelly peeing on people and Michael Jackson, none of them said the stuff that he did. Seriously, look through R. Kelly category where he crapped on Black people. Look at Michael Jackson category where so all of these were questionable artists that did crazy stuff and nobody. So I'm like, I get why y'all still bumping in, with R. Kelly, because R. Kelly didn't do anything about Black. I mean, did something to little Black girls, but that was all that deviant stuff on a personal level. He wasn't crapping on the community at large. Kanye was just saying inflammatory, incendiary, hurtful, demeaning comments directly made at the Black community, specifically in favor of white supremacy while wearing a fucking MAGA hat with Candace Owens. You can't offend me more than that. You can't. So I didn't care who cut his fucking nuts off. They needed to be fucking cut. Why do we ignore that? This is what this man did. This is what he did. And you know what? The whole time, he got in bed with them Jews to get to where he was. So I'm like, miss me with his bullshit. I'm not going to move off that position on him. So no, I wish it was Farrakhan that cut his nuts off. And he got the nerve to come back and pop off at the mouth at Farrakhan, who was trying to defend his Black ass. He was on the interview in the garage talking about he taking exception at Farrakhan, who if anybody going to defend him against the Jews, it would be Farrakhan. But he taking exception against him. I said, once again, because he don't give a shit about us. Why am I the only one that can see this? That man don't care about Black people. That nigga don't think he Black. He do that shit that OJ do. He cry Black when his ass is in a box. Stop.
I'm gonna bring that up too. And real quick, Rico, I want to shout out Eagle Scout Survival Tips. Thank you for passing through. What's going on? We're just having a conversation regarding the dynamics around Kyrie Irving and Kanye West, who their recent controversies, if you will. So we're having that conversation. But Mr. Harris, go ahead and jump in, and I'm gonna change questions in a moment.
George Bush don't care about Black people.
And now Rico saying Kanye West. Kanye West doesn't care about Black people.
And that's where he gets it, right? Like, oh, he fucking got him. I was sitting there, he fucking got him again. He got him again with that.
See, Rico, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only person that wasn't tapped in. See?
Yeah, but all that information that I just said, I swear to God, I didn't make any of it up. It's all out there on the internet. It all came from this man. And that's why I'm sitting there saying it should have been us. We should have, as we said a minute ago, about holding our community accountable. And people still won't hold him accountable. Instead, he like the kid, remember he little Ray, who done sat there and stole all that shit. And his mama, leave my baby alone because he didn't do it. How do you know? You didn't see him do. Man, we got him on film. Just because that looked like him, that don't mean that's him. We got his fingerprint. That could be anybody's fingerprint. Well, his brother told him. His brother's stupid. I mean, just like they would make excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse. We got to stop. And I'm not saying to kill Kanye. How are you canceling a guy that's still worth $500 million? I'm just saying, just tell the nigga to go away. And again, I say we need to go get Colin Kaepernick, who's out there in the community putting his money. Look at the difference, people. Remember you asked about the politic question. Because when we have people with substance, nobody wants to listen to them. But we want to listen to the people with no substance because it's the flash. Because I'm like, these are both, and they're all entertainers. He just took a knee, and everybody, and he lost his job. So, he lost his job. Colin Kaepernick lost his. He never took another snap. He never threw another pass. He's not in NFL. He's barely 30 years old, and he would be a great quarterback for somebody. But them white folks said that's it. You need on our flag, on our anthem, and your black ass ain't playing football no more. So I'm like, so what is Kanye telling us that Cap didn't tell us before?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I did want to jump into the next question, Rico. Appreciate the passion. I see you feel that one. But I want to ask another question that came up while you were talking. Are celebrities portraying culture when convenient to fall back on the support of the Black collective or community, whichever word you use? So I will get Mr. Harris here because I see your head shaking. I'm gonna let you gather your thoughts. Mr. Harris, what do you think? Are we allowing people to come in and portray culture when convenient to fall back on the support of the Black community or collective?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just like my other answer, I think it's a part and indicative of American culture. This is what most people do. They kind of play double dutch to what works for them. Our kids, it would be the prime examples. Sometimes they're kids, sometimes they're adults. They're like 21, 22, and it's like, I'm going out. See you later, and I'm headed to work, and yada yada yada. But it's like, Daddy, I need $200. Like, Hillary, goodness gracious. So, and we as society, we do it too. We play double dutch. We play victim when we need to, but we're strong. Us as men, we braggadocious and we know everything until we get pulled over, and then we forget that we needed a registration for this Bentley that we got. So, it's American double dutch. I think it's indicative of our culture. But yes, celebrities, they do. They play the black card, but it's a card, man. It's 52 in the deck. And you get 13 if you're playing spades or whatever the case may be. And when you play it, just play it smart. Like people say in spades, you might could see my hand, but you can't play my hand for me because I have a certain expertise with this. So if you're going to play the card, play it. But like Brother Rico said, if you're going to have it play out in front of people and they can clearly see your agenda, your motive behind, the great odds, so to speak, then it's going to be seen. But I think absolutely a lot of people use profit off of pain. They use portraying the culture. They use, even, lying to perpetuate their message and their agenda. So yeah, that's another great question, man. Great questions tonight, man. Rico about to cook this one.
I know, because he was not.
No cooking. That's just a flat out. Yeah, the question is the answer. Yes, celebrities flat out portray our culture when it's convenient. Again, like I said, and that's all been throughout history. Whether it's and it's usually, oftentimes, you see it the most. It's weird. Because you'll see, right, we come out of a black space and they're blackety black. But as they start to ascend the ascendancy, right, they become less black. You know what I'm saying? Because now they're in spaces, because when you're here, your space is all black. You're not integrated with anyone else. You're segregated. But each level, so now you go to high school and now you're on a select team. Oh, now you got a few white peers. Oh, now you go up to college and now you got more white peers. Because you might, especially if you don't go to a HBCU, now you're at a PWI, you're at a predominantly white institution. Oh, now you get selected to the draft. See, and you see how each level you go up, your space becomes less black and more white. Whether it's at a private high school up to a PWI, so your spaces become less black and more white. Then you get you reach the epitome of the heights of your profession, your sport, your music career, your acting, whatever the space is. And it's not that you're excluded from your blackness, because it's always there. It's always a part of you. Remember, you brought it with you. You didn't leave your blackness because you can't. We can't take this off. But for some reason, you forget about it. You get up every morning, you see yourself in the mirror, but because you're validated by people who don't look like you, and then they feed you that narrative of you worked hard. You're here because of you. No, motherfucker, you here because of your mama, your daddy, your sisters, your brothers, your community. See, you can't get to the finish line without being at the starting line. And the people at the finish line wouldn't with your ass at the starting line. But we forget that. See, because now we're being given all these flowers up here. We're being told we're the best, we're the GOAT, we're the greatest, we're this, we're that. And we believe it. See, that's what Mr. West did. You know what I'm saying? He believed that GOAT theology. Where was that GOAT theology coming from? It wasn't coming from us. It's coming from them. Who made him a billionaire? It wasn't us. It was them. So we buy into all of that. We do it to ourselves. And then it's only during the decline, whether it's naturally, meaning that, oh, okay, your time is up, or in this instance, you fall off a cliff because basically, as the old adage say, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Okay? When you're making that ascendancy, that group of people in power, they're feeding you. You choose to bite that hand, expect to fall off a cliff. Expect to fall off a cliff. Nothing that these two gentlemen are going through has not happened for the last 150 years in America to people of color. That's the only thing when you, Arshawn, you and Bree was talking about the generations and y'all beat up on the boomers. Y'all niggas think everything is new. It ain't.
I know better.
It's old.
Glad you said that.
Old. Everything is old, and it just is cyclical. It's, it just did. So these younger generations, I always say, me and Clarence always say, they run around thinking about, I'm smarter. They don't understand. You old. You don't know. Like, okay, here we go. He about to get his OJ moment, or he about to get this person moment back in history, who all went through that. These power structures, these systems, these groups, they've been around forever. So at the end of the day, do celebrities, and it's so even in rap music, which is what Kanye and you play off our trauma, you play off our dysfunction, you play off all the criminality in our community to make all these rap songs and all these beats and all the stuff they talk about, all the criminality that you glorify to push to these young white kids and our kids that this is how they should be, which is further feeding the fuel to the prison industrial complex, become a billionaire with a bunch of goddamn rich white people, and then want to dismiss us with all of your talking points. And then the minute they get rid of your ass and you right back down here in the space of criminality and black spaces, you want to cry you black and you a victim. Miss me with that.
Yeah.
Welcome home, nigga. That's all I got to say. Welcome home.
Yeah, man, I hear you. But you mentioned something that made me move my question up. You said there's nothing new under the sun, they say. Isn't a lot of what we see predictable chaos? It's been said the history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. So, I mean, go ahead and jump right back into that one, because you did mention that, and then Mr. Harris follow up, if you don't mind.
Is it predictable? Yeah, it almost is. That's the crazy part of it. So I can tell you this. The mistakes are predictable. That's what's very predictable. So, that's why, like, Chappelle did the great monologue on SNL Saturday, where he basically said 35 years ago, the Jews, that shit don't end well. Just shut up. Just stop it. These, this is a group of people, and I don't blame them. If I was Jewish, I'm like, I'd be riding with that shit too. Don't put some respect on our name. Watch your mouth. If anything, we need to be more diligent about that for us, but we're not. So it's not even a question of whether or not. And I saw a guy explained to me about the history of Hollywood, about, they do, and they do run Hollywood because they built Hollywood. They created it. And I didn't think about it. I was like, damn, that's okay. That makes sense, because I know in every other space, power's never given. It's never shared. It's only taken. So in all these major industries all throughout America, they're owned by certain groups of people. So I'll take, for example, right, I'll tell you one for black people. This is one that maybe we can think about. Black hair, the hair industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We all know who runs that, right? It's not the Jews, it's not white people, it's Asians. We all agree with that, right? But the number one consumers are what? Black people.
Black people.
They ain't letting us get it a cut of that fucking pie. They started it, they built it, and I don't care what we try to do to get in that industry, they're not sharing. They got all the distribution locked down. They got all the hair sourcing industries. They're not giving it to us. All the hair from. So you can't get upset because people create an industry, the airplane industry, the car industry. If industries are created by certain segments of society and they decide, hey, look, we're not going to let you in, but you can profit off of it if you help us. Why are you trying to disrupt that industry? They're not going to let you. Knock it off. We have to find unique industries that have not been started and collect. But you know what we'll do? As if we can find one, a black person will come up with a unique industry. We'll sell it. We'll sell it. We'll sell it. And then when we sell it, we'll be mad because we get cut out of it. We'll if I come up with, I got a flying jet pack, this, whatever. Oh shit, I'm gonna sell it to so-and-so, to Elon Musk, because I want the money. And then they capitalize on the market and then lock us out of it, even though we created it. We do it with our music and our entertainment and so forth. We have got to stop doing that, but we do. And that's part of what our problem is. So I'll just say this, just to circle back to the question, is that the future is predicted, the flaw, the mistakes, which is why they say never forget your history or less you'll be doomed to repeat it. Meaning you don't forget what you did wrong. You can't forget the right answer, but I know where I fucked up. Don't do that again.
Gotcha. Real quick, I saw the drop the link. B Nizzle, I appreciate you, man. I'm not dropping the link tonight until probably about another 30 minutes or so. I did want to have the conversation with Rico. Mr. He said, and I invited a couple of other people, but just in case they show up, and if Mrs. She said were to show up, I had a specific number I didn't want to try to go over, but if they don't show up, again, I will be opening it up in about 30 minutes. I want to get the first couple hours with the people I'd invited. But again, if you're still here in 30 minutes or you roll back around, come back on. Mr. He said, go ahead and jump in on that question. Put me
on the timer, Arshawn. You know how I can be sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, I didn't want to do that to you today. I need you to self-regulate a little. I need you to self-regulate a little, sir.
Okay.
I'll jump in. Let's see. I don't think there's anything new under the sun. That's something that was always taught to me as a youngin'. And like Brother Rico said, you know, we got Colin, we had Nick Cannon, we had Professor Griff, we had so many people and so many in the 80s and 90s. And I come from New York City. We got the Israelites. They are ramming it down our throat on almost all of the blocks. We got, the 5%ers. We got so many different, forms of where this knowledge all came from. This stuff is not new, but que sera on that. Predictable chaos. Yeah, I would have to say, because again, if you're not informed about history, you are doomed to repeat it. I'm not going to stray away from that. I still, wholeheartedly agree with that. But there are factors in play. I will say that. I think that as far as our community, it's a little unique because Rico definitely touched on it, where he said that, us as men have to have a certain consciousness. And I think that's the overall point, that without this knowledge, without being aware that you want to do better, you want to learn more, then you're going to stay stuck. It's so many measures put in place, to keep you at bay, to keep you mundane, that you have to make a conscious decision to rise up. This was an amazing conversation. I think the most thing that I take from it is that you got to go to the well. the water ain't coming to you, man. And that's something I say, but it's a true thing, man. You got to know when you're thirsty. You got to know where the well is, and you got to know where to go. If you got elders in your community, you got peers that you're willing to say, that you're willing to learn from. If you have a significant other that you can look to and be vulnerable, I think it's time for us to do that, because our community is doing really, really bad. And I would absolutely love to see us do better together. And forums and conversations like this are absolutely a great start, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Nah, definitely. The people I vibe with are people that can think of their own accord. Like, I know everybody thinks they think. Everybody believes that they're thinking. But most people have a mind that thinks along the way they were trained to think. Well, my mother said this, so it's this. Well, the church said this, so it's this. But the people I appreciate the most, like I know B9 was in the chat, you, Mr. Harris, Rico, Yella and Bree, like people I really enjoy, and your wife, Mrs. Harris. I love people that were like, you know what? I don't care what anybody else told me. Let me actually think about it for myself. Whether my conclusion is based upon what I want, what my values are, what the society said. Let me look at all the angles and then come to a conclusion based off that. And if I don't know, I have the humility to say I just don't know. Like, those are the people I rock with, because there are a lot of fake authorities out here. Everybody's like in their own way a confidence man. Everybody's a con man, because everybody speaks on authority about some things that just have no true answer or don't have a one answer. And I like the people. That's why I invited you guys up here. I will definitely work with B9 and stuff like that, because B9 is one of those people too. He doesn't work from I'm right, I have the answers. He just like, I want to think this through. And he'll ask it, well, where's the conversation at a micro level, individual level, or is this a group level, macro level? He constantly has to reorient people's thinking, because we'll get stuck that the way we're thinking about it is the only way to think about it. So again, I just want to give respect to the men up here and the men, the people, the men and women I try to listen to, because that's important that we stop thinking the way everybody tells us to think. That's that's what Kanye and Kyrie are saying. You've had the wool pull over your eyes. Like, we've been, and I know at least with Kanye, he's been a part of it. With the music, the music is seductive. It's the melodies, the beats. There'll be a lot of misogyny baked in, homophobia baked in. That's part of the wool too that further divides us, because we'll practice hate in the way we even sing our songs. We'll sing hate towards each other. So there's a problem when it's seeping into your subconscious through the music, through the movies, through the games. We take that and it becomes our teaching tool. We're practicing like bad behavior. We're practicing like toxic behavior, toxic thought. So I mean, we really need to have people that can think through the problems and then have those but it's provocative. It gets the people going. Absolutely. Absolutely, Danny. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, because I know both of you have platforms and families, taking the time to have this conversation with me. But the next question I have: are we having a culture war to determine who gets to remain protected classes? Because it sure seems to me that the way they responded for Jewish seems like they're a protected class. And it sure doesn't feel like the way they came down on two black men that they were protected classes. Now, I don't know if the money took them out of the protection, or if is black no longer a protected class. Because I know Kanye and Dave Chappelle have both pointed out, you can say nigga, 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 nigga all day long in every form of media, but you cannot say anything too inflammatory about LGBT, about Jewish people, and not sometimes even about just women. So are we having a culture war to determine who's still a protected class?
Yes, but I'll give a little pushback, okay? Because Dave and Kanye is absolutely right. You can say the N word. That's our fault. That's our fault. That goes back to, again, we talked about we give out these nigga passes to everybody. We have, and Lord, no, don't get me on Gen Z. They give nigga passes to everybody. They just literally do. At least us boomers still had a sense of pride in like who could use it. Your ass better look like me or Mr. Harris or Arshawn, or it's knuckle up time. But nowadays, they give it to everybody. They passing out nigga passes overseas. Literally. So
Can I cut you off real quick? Can I say we
yeah,
cannot
I'm beating up
take
on y'all because y'all beat up on
No, not even that. Not even that. That's not even the angle I'm coming from, Rico. Because first you started off with this, and I love it. I love that that's where we started was accountability. Nah, we messed up. But the next part, how are we going to take pride in being the only people that can call somebody a nigga? Like you can't talk about that. We had so much pride that we was the only ones that you got to look like me to say nigga. That's the pride I had in myself that I could call a black man a nigga. I could call a black woman a nigga. That's some crazy pride. That almost sound ruckusy, but I'm gonna let that.
Okay, proper correction. That was yes. Thank you, Arshawn. That is a proper correction. You corrected me. What I'm saying is that the pride we took was in not allowing others to disparage us, even though we ignorantly disparaged ourselves. You know what I'm saying? That was the only pride we took, was that it was stupid for us to continue to call ourselves that. But we wouldn't. It goes back to the conversation you had where I said about the Jews. Like you said, hey, I can correct my people, but you ain't gonna correct my people. I can disparage my people, but you ain't gonna disparage my people. You know, so it's we have, as black people, we have some crazy thought processes about things, right? Like, oh, I don't want nobody correcting them, even though they killed somebody. I don't want nobody talking about them, even though I talk about them. So that's that point of view. That's the only thing I say. So as far as on the N-word, and I hate it, and we need to clean it up, and I need to stop using it, and so on and so forth. So I hope I die off soon, so that anybody else who continue to use it. I'm just saying that the people who use that terminology, who were so stuck with it, I wish it would die out of my head, my thought process, and out of my mouth. But I don't think it's going to leave me because it's been in me for so long. But I really wish it would go away. However, what we collectively try to romanticize the word, and then by romanticizing it, I still don't think that it's an acceptable term for non-black people to use. It's more likely to be used by a non-black person, but it's still not an acceptable term and can get your ass canceled. Are we saying that black people are not a protected class? I think we're a protected class even among race. Black men, maybe not so much. Black people, yes, because I don't think black men should be a protected class. I think black people should be a protected class. Again, don't stop dividing us from our women. That's why, again, the marginalization, we're further marginalizing ourselves if we're breaking ourselves out by sex. Oh, black men, black women, only black children are protected. I'm like, well, goddamn, we're weakening ourselves. So let it stay along the race. If black women got an issue, take that up with the women cause. If you LGBT, go to your LGBT camp. If you practice Judaism, go over to there. But these classes, and they are protected. The Jews are protected. The LGBT is protected. We need to protect black people. Should be a protected class. But as far as the loosening of the N-word, we have to take
You're gonna die on that hill.
Responsibility. That's it.
If Rico gonna die on that hill, I'm gonna keep that N-word. I hope it die off for me, but ain't nobody. Nobody better else say it till I die. Jump in, Mr. Harris.
I don't think any of us are protected. I respectfully disagree. Only because I think somebody got to be the bad guy in the story, in the movie, and unfortunately that's us, man. We got it. We got that role, and I don't think black men are protected. Rico alluded to that. Black women, I don't think they're protected at all. I talk to my wife all the time about going to the doctor. She's rarely heard, rarely respected. And that's a whole nother, topic to discuss. They got to protect themselves from black men right now. We all just at each other's neck. And it's all of us, black kids, I think the most dangerous place for them to be is in the womb of their mothers. So it's critical out here for all of us. I think we absolutely need to notice that it's going on out here, and we do better together. I can't stress that enough, that, you know, if we can see through whether maturity or experience or just looking at the world for what it is, and wanting to do something better for your family, for yourself, that, you know, we need to get on the same page as families, as communities, and be willing to be led, be willing to be corrected, be willing to be, you know, accepting of curation, of leadership and of guidance. And I think that's how we get to a better place. But if we all keep walking around like you can't tell me nothing, and you know, I'm above everybody, I think we stay right where we are. So I think we all need to protect each other, and work a little harder, and more, have a more conscious decision to protect each other. That would be my vote.
Nah, I hear you. I know there was a little bit of a question about what you were saying. You said black will be we're the bad guy. We're the bad guy. So what perspective are you coming from when you say that?
From guilty by association. Again, I thought about the question of what experience do we all share that makes us black, and it really took me a while to think about it, because it's such a new day and time. We don't all share the same collective anymore. There's people who grow up in different environments, and I believe you and Bree were having a conversation that really enlightened me. And one thing I do think we all share now is the guilty by association. And, you know, we get the worst of the assumptions. We don't get the benefit of the doubt because of the color of our skin. You know, places like Chicago, places like we live in Baltimore, Brother Rico was alluding to Maryland. It's just they don't realize that there are families trying to do good out here. There are a couple of families in Chicago that are trying to make it up out of there and trying to live better and trying to be positive. But we just have a certain view of Chicago, of Baltimore, of these urban cities that we say, you know, burn them off the map. They're all no good. And I think it's that mindset and that perspective that we look from that's a little insensitive for us all. That, again, there are people out here that's trying to break these cycles, that's trying to break these generational curses. We don't have no instruction book. We don't have a lot of good role models, but we still out here trying to do it. And you're not going to hear the news or a lot of internet spaces talk to us or talk about us. So, you know, if you do have some positive influences, holla at them. Let them know you see them, that, you know, you appreciate them, and see where that goes.
Can I add one thing, Arshawn?
Real quick, but you know, I'm about to give you time. You about to make me dust off the timer. You about to make me dust off the timer. Go ahead,
No,
Rico.
switch. Go ahead. But the only thing I was gonna say was just in the space of blackness, is that because I travel internationally a lot, anti-blackness is a big thing around the globe. And we struggle like here mightily in America, but we are the leaders in the space of combating anti-blackness and speaking on black empowerment. Anti-blackness exists on the continent of Africa. I mean, that's real, people. So when I go to the DR, you know, Panama, you know, Ecuador, all these countries have large black populations that are suffering at a greater rate than we are because of, and even though they don't see themselves as black, Mr. Harris, they're black. They've even to the point that they can't even see themselves as black, and they actually are still looking towards us to be that voice that leads around the world to combat anti-blackness. So we got to get shit better together, not just for us here, but for our fellow brothers and sisters. When they took us from the continent of Africa, they dropped us off everywhere in Mexico. We got to do better. We got to.
Real quick,
That's what my
I wanted you to respond to this because I think during your talking, it might have been a misspeaking. You said black people are protected, but you said black men aren't protected. So I think that was Rico. I think that was when Rico was talking. I believe I heard something similar to that too, but it might have been a misspoke.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a misconfusion.
Might have been a misspoke.
Yeah, because I was saying, like, let's not make it about protecting black men, but make it about protecting black people. So I didn't necessarily say that, you know, black people were protected, because I saw that and I was a little confused myself. But I'm saying, when you talked about protected class, you know, the Jews are protected
Right.
class, the LGBT protected class. And I was saying, I don't think that black men are a protected class. I think that if you speak racially derogatory about black people, which
Yeah.
includes men, that if you say the N-word, your ass still will get canceled. But we, as a group of people, black men and women, give too many people the N-word pass.
Yeah.
We know
Guys,
somebody
real quick,
writes
let me
it.
see what Wally's saying. A good point, but that's so subjective since they only are shown one image. But I get you. Okay, that was not a question. Let me shout out Alonzo Hall, the All-Star Advisor. Thank you for being in the building. And Chris Class, the Classic Alpha, Take It Home podcast. Make sure you check him out. Matter of fact, I think I have, what was it? Classic.
Drop the link if you got us the link channel.
Nah, I'm gonna drop the link in a few. Real quick, I just wanted to let me see if it works. I got those bots. I've been trying to use those bots. I want to see if it works.
Oh Lord.
I don't see it. I don't
You
see it.
look
Nightbot quit on me. Yeah, Nightbot don't look like it's working. Oh well. There we go. Come on, Nightbot. Come through, Nightbot.
There you go.
Right.
Shout out to Nightbot.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I get you in there too, Mr. He said, and you over there, Rico. I'm gonna get some. I gotta put some more time in, but I know Chris Classic was definitely shouting out the channel, so I definitely want to show love. But next question.
Yes, sir.
Do we need to do a better job of providing cover? That's the PC, the providing cover for people that step out front and identify social issues or threats to our vulnerable groups. Do we need to provide better cover for people that step out, like the Kyries, the Kanyes? And I know they got money, so you may not. I know, Rico, you've already made your position clear. I don't feel sorry because they got money to sit on, but it's not just them. Real quick, it's not just them. Right. Sometimes it's political people. Yes. It might be somebody on social media. It might be somebody on a platform like this. Yes. Do we need to provide better collective cover when people are stepping out there and identifying problems?
Yes, but I will say this. Okay, we can't provide cover just because they black. Because if that's the case, we got to cover Candace. We got to cover all the other, you know what I'm saying?
Good
point. We're doing it straight on just color. Nah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. It's so remember me and you, Arshawn, we had 1,000 conversations. I still have it today. It's about responsible language.
Yeah.
If the language is responsible, I'll be the guy. I'm on point. I'll take the first bullet for you. But if you're just talking some plain old coonery, buffoonery, and some bullshit, man, you miss me with that. So, yes, I think we need more leaders to come out and to speak for, the benefit and the protection of the community, but they got to be responsible. So, and even in these two situations with these two gentlemen, while I do not think that everything that they said was wrong, I just think that, reckless, me and you talked about, Arshawn, reckless communication, reckless words, reckless deeds. Somebody was talking about the other day, and I was like, yeah, just like, the Holocaust was Hitler and his words. But I said, we don't even have to go that far back. We can go back to the 80s to Rwanda. Okay, the genocide. They were killing black people were killing black people over words that the guy said over the radio, calling the Hutus were calling the Tutsis cockroaches, and they killed them, murdered 1 million people. Words have power. You got to be responsible with your rhetoric and your language. And all this bullshit we have in America, where people keep talking about free speech, we have too much free speech in America. Yes, I believe in cancel culture because I believe more people need to be canceled. People are canceled all over the world. You don't lose your First Amendment rights. You can continue to say whatever you want. However, we should have the responsibility to say that cancel culture is nothing new. It's been around forever. Back in the day, they used to put you in a stockade in the town circle and put a ball in your mouth and they would stone you and beat you. Okay, this is nothing new. This is just society saying you can't come out here and speak recklessly in language that may cause other people harm. So yes, we do need more black leaders to speak up consciously, and even like I told somebody the other day, I don't align with the Nation of Islam, but I support the Reverend Louis Farrakhan and a lot of the stuff he says. Sometimes I think he get a little too hot, But for the most part, I look at what his motives are. For 50, 60 years, I watched this black man, whether he spoke rightly or wrongly, he spoke in defense of my community. So his motives will always drive me to support him, and I will never condemn him. When I look at Kanye, I'm like, all I see is a nigga that just speaks for himself. Everything is about, I'm the victim, I'm the victim. I haven't heard a word about in defense of the black community. All I heard from him is me, 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 me. My black kids, me, 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 me. I'm not, you out of your mind. Because he black? Are you crazy? So, we have to look at our leaders who we choose to follow. But yes, I do believe I want us to collectively come around and support black leaders who are going out there, being conscious thought leaders that are going out there, that are fighting for us. And to be honest with you, I don't think we have enough. I'm disappointed I think we have a hugely significant, we have a huge deficit, and we need young voices. We need an Arshawn.
That's a good point. No, younger.
Yes.
Younger.
We need an Arshawn to get out there and to speak. And you know what? I'll be up there marching. I'll take the bullets for them. But we just don't. We sit back. We collectively as a people, we got to get out of this. White Zaddy is the only person that can speak for us shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Wait,
Mr. He said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say yeah. I think everybody needs covering. And just for the fact that unity, man, unity is a beautiful thing. It's amazing, and it causes conversations like this when other cultures, other ethnicities display unity, other groups, they display a certain unity that is admirable. Like Kanye said, coincidentally, I'm jealous of the community, the way they don't abort their babies, the way they stay together as families, the way, they do business, the way they have a collective as far as the way they benefit. So, I wholeheartedly think that we all deserve some covering. And I do get what Brother Rico is saying. Now, we just cannot be providing covering to idiots, but at the same time, it's subjective to say who's an idiot and who's not. And I think that's where our curation can come into play. Maybe we could put something to the side where, even if we do protect you publicly and cover you publicly, when we get in-house, you might have to pay extra tax to the black tax and put some more money into the communities and make some more things happen in our name. But I do think we have to have some sort of barometer, some sort of a collective. And I don't know if we can get an individual to lead us, but I do think we do need leadership. We do need guidance, just like our households and us as a people. We got to be vulnerable enough and wise enough and willing enough to say, you know what? We do need some sort of an accord. I do nominate Arshawn. He is young enough, I believe. And
I second that motion, Mr. Harris. I second it. The motion's been settled.
It's been a great show tonight. I appreciate y'all for coming, everybody. It's been nice. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening.
Ain't no wiggling out of it. But that's what we do need, though. You were spot on, Mr. And I really love your point about, paying any additional tax, bringing them in-house. Because again, like I said, I could go, but you. And I know tonight, and I apologize to anybody that may be a Kanye fan, because I know there's some fans of him out there. And I do think that he's a very, very talented musical person. I think he's outstanding on the music standpoint. But my point is that, and it's just not just him, it's just any people who would speak in the space that he speaks, is that if you call him in, is he going to listen? But because this is my fear. My fear is like, okay, what the hell is he going to say next week? I mean, we're all sitting around, right? People are mad that they clipped his nuts, but we don't know what he's going. Just listen to me a moment. Yesterday, that fool in Florida announced he was going to run for president again. I swear to God, by the weekend, Kanye going to Mar-a-Lago. And I'm like, black people, what the fuck does it take? And if he does, I'm just saying, look, don't say he won't. He went to the White House with that fucking hat on. We're gonna do another show if he does. They'll be like, Rico. I'm like, I'm like, please let me be right. Please tell me he down for the cause. Please tell me he down for people. He doing all this blackity black talk. Stay in that space. But some of the stuff I heard him say, it's just like, come on, we can't do that. But I agree with you, Mr. Harris. If we could bring him in the house, say, look, we're gonna cover you, but you got to stop doing this to us. You just got to stop, man. You got to stop doing this too. Again, my issue with him has nothing to do with what he said about other people. He can go, why did he? Don't go out there and talk about Breonna Taylor tomorrow or Sandra Bland or Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin didn't really get, he'll do some dumb shit like that. And then I'm going to be infuriated. I'm telling you.
Don't do it, Rico.
I'm going to be livid if that's what he does, because I'm like, come on, man, don't do this to us again, because we are struggling. But you want to tell you why? Because there are white people in America today that still believe that boy deserved to fucking die. And I hate that shit. And when you put a black face onto that shit that condones it, it makes it worse for all of us. That's why I can't stand Candace Owens, because she does that to every black victim. She put a black face to justify their fucking death. Am I the only person that sees something wrong with that? She did it about Trayvon. She did it about George Floyd. Every black person that dies, she puts a black justification face to it. And this nigga stood next to her and condoned that shit with a White Lives Matter shirt. She talked all of... Trayvon was 17 years old, Arshawn. He was 17. I don't give a fuck what he was doing. He didn't deserve that. But the stuff that she said about him, come on, man. Y'all got to stop. If y'all don't know, then that's why history keeps repeating. So when we say, why does history keep repeating? Because you know what, Arshawn? This generation, they don't want to read. I didn't know nothing about... I'm like, that wasn't that damn long ago. That wasn't in the 60s or the 50s. That wasn't that long ago for y'all not to know what happened to that young man. He went to the store to get some goddamn tea and some Skittles and was walking home by himself unarmed. How do y'all not know? Or the young black man in Colorado, Elijah.
Yeah, Elijah McClain.
Just for being different.
And no, they pumped him full of a drug too.
Yes,
it wasn't just that they pumped
ketamine or some shit.
Ketamine.
They shoot up fucking horses with.
Yeah.
Because he had a fucking hoodie on. What are we talking about?
No, that's real.
And when these things happen, so I apologize, but if I seem passionate, but I'm like, come on, Arshawn,
it's worth being passionate about.
In Colorado, young black, 110 pounds. 110, 120 pounds. Elijah Taylor, Khalid Browder, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. Come on. And then you get black people who will pile on with this white supremacy ideology. Because you know what? When we talk about people that were doing stuff wrong, Trayvon wasn't doing nothing wrong. Tamir Rice wasn't doing nothing wrong. Elijah Taylor wasn't doing nothing wrong. They were minding their own black ass business going home. And they're not here no more. And their family didn't get justice. Fuck that shit. My old black ass should know this, and y'all don't. And y'all don't. Come on. Yeah. I should be the old crotchety boomer Negro that don't care.
Well, you definitely care, but you are an old crotchety Negro.
Well, why don't y'all?
I'm trying, Rico. Like that's what I'm. Let me ask this question. Then let me redirect. I mean, you got a lot of passion, and it's justifiable. Like people are losing their lives, but how then are people? So how are we supposed to? And I'm gonna make another PC out of this. How can you expect these young people who didn't experience the civil rights era era, maybe read about it, maybe heard a taste of it in school, maybe saw a movie. How do you expect them to live emotionally, psychologically in pain central? Because everybody, it's you can hear it. You are in pain central when you hear about this stuff. So how then are you going to ask that of the young people? Do you want them to feel the way you feel when you talk about that right now? I mean, it's on your face. Do you want them to feel that way? Now, one, yes, that kind of hurt can mobilize people, but it can also cripple.
Yeah, but then we can't talk about change.
We can't
Then
talk
we
about
can't
change
talk
without the
about change.
pain.
No, I'm saying that we can't talk about change about what the system is. You know, I mean, I hear young folk talk about change, but I'm like, how do you talk about change if you don't recognize what the problem is? Because these like I said, you know, when I talked about the Trayvon Martin, the Tamir Rice, I think his last name is Taylor. I know it's Elijah. I can't, you know, so I know
Elijah McClain was Colorado.
McLean, that's his name. All right, because and it's important to me not to be disrespectful to the family. But they weren't civil rights victims. This is, I mean, damn, in the last decade, and Breonna Taylor and so on and so forth. So I'm like, and Sandra Bland, I'm like, these are not civil rights victims. So it's hard for me to think that they're so detached or disassociated from a possibility that, okay, it could happen to you, one of your loved ones, or not even, like when I look at what happens to them, it's just like the lack of justice. And then when I think about things like where when I think about all of them as a victim, all I say to myself is like, take the name and replace it with a blonde haired white woman. They'll move heaven and fucking earth to get justice. Because they do. They do. I mean, they do that for where a blonde haired white girl body ain't even found. So people of color, you got the body and you got the motherfucker that did it, and you can't get justice. But a blonde haired white woman whose body ain't found in another country and you can find justice. I'm like,
I hear
if
you.
you
But that
talk
goes back
about,
to the protected classes, Rico. We
yeah.
like I don't want to rehash.
Okay,
like
so I'll just say this. If you talk about change, you can't speak about change if you don't look at or care about what's broken. So how can you care about fixing something if you don't care about what's broken? That's
Okay.
my question. So if in fact they're disassociated from the point that like, well, you know what, why should I care? Then you know what? If it don't change, it don't change. Just wait till the shit happens to you. And then we call it a day. And then that's it.
I hear you, Rico. I just want to say this real quick, like, because you're right to a point, but I think it has to be broadened out because I've seen enough to know that it's not just a black issue; it's a system issue, which is where we could get alliances. Because I watched the cops walk up on a homeless guy at a bus stop. There's a video of it. Walked up on him. He's incoherent, but he's posing no threat, sitting at a bus stop. They walked up, 4 of them in a line, like a riot line. He's by himself. He makes no move. He just mumbled something, and they killed him on the spot. You know what I'm saying? So what we're talking about, we can talk about proportionality. That's one thing, but the problems with violence, the problems with being preyed upon because you're weak, it's not just black people.
No.
So that's what I mean, real quick. So like when I said the civil rights thing, I'm talking about where they might tap into the passion.
Right.
But if they see it happening across the board, like I see it, they may say, well, this is just a systemic problem that I can't change. You know what I'm saying? They don't tap into it being me because they see everybody getting taken out like this.
Well, I would just say this: the greater proportion of people who are missing and unaccounted for and uncared for and are unalive, deleted, whatever the word you want to call them, it's not even black people. It's Native. Native American women are disproportionately unaccounted for, unalive, deleted, and no one gives a fuck. So as much as they talk about the missing black girls, the Native American girls are even worse. So that's where when I talk about communities of alliances, again, that's a community we could tap into. Even though they're smaller, but you add their percentage to our percentage, it grows. Then you may go to the Asian, because a lot of these communities are underreported because they know that people don't care. So you got to get to these collective communities where people have come to this space of no one caring and say, hey, again, it takes a charismatic leader that can talk to all these communities, whether it's a Native person, an Asian person, or a black person. Say, hey, look, we need to collectively get together because they don't give a fuck about none of us. They don't give a fuck about the Native community. They don't care about the Asian community. They don't care about the black community. But if we all come together and create a political bloc, then maybe we can have some of our issues addressed. I'm not saying it'll work, but if we try to do it alone, it definitely won't work. And that's what they're counting on. Keep all three of them divided because then they're all meaningless.
Now I hear you. I want to welcome B9 to the panel, man. How you feeling tonight, sir?
I'm blessed by the best. How you gentlemen doing tonight?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful.
I like to
Definitely
hear.
got the
Yeah.
I got the cerebros up here. I got all the cerebros, BROs. I got the cerebros. Go ahead, B9.
Oh, y'all having a great topic, great conversation. I'm enjoying your show. The only thing I wanted to come up and add on is Rico is knocking it out the park with his observations. But ultimately, it takes me back to my quote from Marion Barry. We're excellent at talking about, where we should be sitting on the bus, but we're not focusing on buying the bus. And that's where the focus is at. Like if we invented Uber back in the 1950s, but we never have profited off of that. We have never come together, like Rico said. We have so many reasons to complain, so many reasons to say why we failed, why we this, why we that. Let's just cut the crap though. We lost. As great as Martin Luther King is, he helped us out tremendously. We lost. As great as Malcolm X is, he helped us out tremendously. We lost. When are we going to win? I don't give a fuck about all these, the process, the journey, the this, the that. I want to win. I want us as a people to win. I know what we do works because the LGBT community has taken our blueprint and has gotten success off of it. The Jewish community has taken our blueprint and gotten success off of it. The NAACP, the Jewish folks have always run the financials of the NAACP. That's why a person that is a racist, like the owner of the Clippers, is a 3-time NAACP Man of the Year award winner. So we being played. And the part that's pissing me off is that we are going to other people that are being played as if they're going to be the solution. Our oppressors are slaves themselves. You do not go to another slave and expect your freedom to be given to you. This is like layers of an onion. Just because you peeled off one layer, what the fuck think you waiting for you right below that? Another layer. After you finish this problem, there's another problem waiting for you until you go to the source of the problem. You want to eradicate a weed, you pull it up from the root. Fuck all the leaves and the other bullshit. Now, you might not see it. It might not be on the surface for you, but give it a month or two. That weed is going to grow back and it's going to multiply because you didn't eradicate it the right way properly. And as long as we focusing on Kanye West or anyone else in entertainment, we're wasting our fucking time. And I don't have time. Our time is one of the most precious and valuable things to me. So if we're going to put our efforts forward something, let's make it productive. Let's not just say, okay, I got a good sweat in. Let's get results out of this shit. Fuck the process.
Can I ask you a question, Brother B9?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you a question because like I think it'll go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. So even as a collective group, Black people, do you think, or do you see a difference in the political ideology, the alignment within the Black community between Black men and Black women? Because that's what I'm starting to see which is diluting our power as a collective, because Black men think one way and Black women think another way. And I'm like, well, damn, if we were 13%, now we're 6 and 7. So now they really ain't got to listen. If they didn't have to listen to the 13%, why they got to listen to the 6 and the 7? Because we're not even unified, because among the sexes, we've created this division. And that's what I think is also problematic. I'm just seeing it. I don't know how to fix it, but I'm like, well, damn, Black men and Black women don't agree. What do you say, you, sir?
The reality of that, from my personal opinion, and I believe history will back me up on this, is that we never had Black women. That's one of the biggest programming and miseducations in our history. We have always been taught that another Black male is the mole, is the plant. It's always been a Black woman. It's all because Black women, see, what we have to realize is that more Moors were already here in America than they brought in through the transatlantic slave trade, excuse me. So when we're talking about that and we understand what war is all about, we understand that women are the spoils of victory. When you go and take someone's land over, the first thing you do is say, now your women are my women. You don't have any control over them. So when they took over America, they knew the blueprint. Go get the women. Let's get this pillow talk under control right now so we can hear what they plotting against and what they doing and how they trying to revolt. And on top of it, we know how much women love their kids. All we got to do is make an example out of a few of these women's children, and all the other women will fall in line and do whatever we say do, because they care about their kids. Even till this day, you find a Black married man who's happily married, and that woman will still say, my kids, even though they're their kids. So there has always been a programming that has been put into play to say, you work for me. You are my property. It is just because you look like us and you can produce us, you have never answered to us. The mammy has always been the head of household in Black America.
So
always.
Okay, so let me ask you. Can I ask him one more follow-up question, Arshawn? So what I wanted to ask you was, okay, and that's I'm following it. I'm really digging it, because I'm trying to think of a solution. Because again, like I said, I've always been struggling with, like, okay, even within the Black culture, the women think one way, the men think another way. So if the premise or the supposition you gave is true and I accept it and we go with it, then what does that mean for us as a community? Because Black men, which are, we presume is half of the 13%, will never get Black women to accept their same political, economic ideology because, as you said, they're co-opted by the oppressors or the people who have dominated them. So we're basically at best 6 to 7%, and we can probably never achieve anything higher than that because we can't. If we can't get our own women to buy into our program, we certainly are not going to get white women or Asian women or Latin women to buy into our program. So, black men, are you saying, or are you suggesting that we're internally doomed to having no power?
No, we're not.
How do we overcome it? Is what I'm asking you.
We properly educate ourselves. 1% of all wealth is owned. So fuck the majority. The minority can be the most powerful. 99% of this world wish they were the 1%ers. So the hell with the majority. The issue is do you have a blueprint that is going to be effective? I've given this story before. People run themselves into a brick wall and break their nose. And then after their nose heals, they'll run right into that same spot, into the brick wall. While other people have found this little hole in the brick wall called a doorway. And they walk through that doorway. They walk back and forth and back, going through that same brick wall all day long, no problem. We have not figured out that we can use that exact same doorway. No, we want to bust through the wall. We want to put a rope and climb over the wall. We want to get a shovel and dig under the wall. We keep trying, and see, the word revolt has been one of the worst words in the world to us for our generation. For previous generations, yes, it was necessary. But the same way that they have appropriated everything from us, it is time for us to start cheating off their paper. I hear people all the time in these youth, and Rico, I'm going to say something crazy about me. I'm the crazy guy that talks about having an embassy for black people. And I hear people all the time say, well, how do you do that, B9? As if there's not over 100 fucking embassies already out here. That's how you do it. You cheat off their paper. You recreate the wheel. But we act like we're so special and so different that they can go steal our lips. They can steal our black women's asses. We can't steal from them. Only thing we can steal from them is hair weave, like you say, the Asians. When are we going to start stealing the intellect, the intelligence? This is their system, but we can master it. Reconstruction was about the most ignorant of ignorant Black Americans, the most uneducated Black Americans that were freed in 1865. Well, by 1885, they were running Congress, Senate, real estate, thriving cities. So in 20 years, these uneducated Black people went from zero wealth to 0.5% of America's wealth. Now in 2022, we have all of these educated people, all these HBCUs and PIAs and blah, 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 and yakety schmackety. And we still at the same fucking 0.5% that we were at back in 1885. So we can work up a good sweat. We can work up a good lather. But for some odd reason, after running on the treadmill for 6 months to a year, we weigh the same 380 that we weighed before, but we've been dieting, but we've been sweating, we've been doing everything, we've been sauning. Well, guess what you ain't been doing? Something effective. Because the proof is in the pudding. I don't give a fuck how much you've been sucking me off, chick. If I don't bust a nut, you're worthless.
That was a mic drop, sir. That was a mic drop. Because you're actually right. And that is a historical truth. was that, like you said, after, during the period of Reconstruction, these were slaves. The people who were in Congress were former slaves that accumulated 0.5% of America's wealth through their ingenuity and industriousness and their sacrifice. So that was a mic drop, that in that short period of time, they accumulated 0.5% of America's wealth from, these were fucking slaves, not descendants of slaves. These were people who were slaves themselves, who came out of bondage and earned 0.5% of America's wealth. And here we are, damn near 100 and something years later, and we gain no more.
Right. Hey, Rico, I want to get Mr. Harris in here too.
That blew me away.
Yeah, I want to get Mr. Harris in here, but I want to say, like, that's another thing. I had an issue with some people that were speaking against capitalism. I have problems with capitalism too. But one of the examples that they used when they were speaking against capitalism was how this black guy had bought his freedom and his family's freedom during slavery. I'm like, how can you at the same time demonize capitalism when a black slave was able to use it to free himself and his family? So like what B9's saying is the systems exist. So either you use them to your advantage or you keep running backwards uphill, on a treadmill that's never going to stop. But Mr. Harris, I wanted to get you in, we froze you out for a quick second.
Capitalism is corrupt, but go ahead.
It may be corrupt, but you better learn how to use the corrupt system.
Okay.
Or how it corrupts. You better learn something. Like B9 say, or you're going to stay at the 0.5%. You're going to stay with what's left over. You're going to stick with the crumbs if you don't learn how to cook.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with the brother. That's that accountability. That's that knowledge that I was talking about, well-rounded. And B9, schools me in front and behind the scenes that it's always, a different picture. And we weren't instructed to look for that picture, to look at that picture. And that's, the individual consciousness that you have to take on yourself, that there is a way for you to do it. Like he said, cheat off their paper, just to share a little bit. My daughters, they love Asian culture. They love K-pop. They love all of that. So, a couple years back, I'm like, yo, y'all should make a K-pop song. Y'all be one of the first African Americans to go into that genre. And it was like, oh, daddy, we don't want to perpetuate their culture and we don't want to capitalize off of it. I'm like, that's super sensitive. I love where y'all coming from, but and now they just look back like, you know what, daddy, like we should have gave that a try. You never know. And again, just building off of what the brother said, that we always got to look to, emulate what's already been done. It's no way, like we said, it's nothing new under the sun. It's no way to create this magical newness that you think your individual, wonderful self is going to do. But you can, create a new doorway. You can create new footsteps and emulate in perpetuate or maybe even capitalize off of someone else's pain. They've been doing it to us for many, many, many years. So, I absolutely agree with that. That was a great answer. Great outlook. Thank you for adding to the conversation, my brother.
So I want to ask 2 more questions to the group while I have you here before we close out. I want to know, because I do feel like there's been a surge of deplatforming men that are speaking on various issues. It's not just men, though. I know Courtney Michelle put up a video recently where TikTok took off some stuff for her. Odie's office, he has some stuff taken off on TikTok. I think TikTok may be becoming one of the more sensitive ones as far as opinions, but I'm not sure. But how do you gentlemen feel about the surge of platform cancellation? That's the PC this time. The platform cancellation that is happening to content creators that are expressing themselves but are not engaging in hate speech. And they used to say it was free speech as long as it wasn't hate speech, but now it's not even hate speech. If they just don't like what you're saying, your stuff's getting snatched down. What do you gentlemen think?
I mean, that happens to us all the time.
All the time. And what it comes down to, I come from academia. So I've been hearing college professors talking for the last decade from UCLA, USC, Berkeley, Yale's, about how there's certain conversations that they used to be able to have in class to spark debate, to spark education. They can no longer have these conversations because the golden rule has now permeated everything. There was a time where you did not talk religion or politics, and you knew that there were certain realms that you left that stuff on the front porch. It's kind of like certain houses you come into, you got to take your shoes off or you ain't coming in. Those shoes are your politics, your religion, your personal beliefs. Nobody can tell you you right. Nobody can tell you you wrong because it's your soul. It's your eternal life, your damnation, your belief system. We live in a world today where you aren't allowed to believe what you want to believe. Kyrie Irving, as much slack as he's taken, this started because he sent out a fucking tweet of a movie. He did not say he liked it. He did not say he hated it. He just put out the fucking tweet. That's anti-Semitism? Promoting a movie is now anti-Semitism? So you're telling me that every time I saw a commercial for Mississippi burning, I should have sued somebody. Every time I saw a commercial for A Time to Kill, I should have sued somebody. They come out with a slave movie, 13 Years a Slave. Why didn't B9 sue someone? We don't defend ourselves against ourselves, but we sure do defend other people for them. Ain't that a motherfucker? If we don't stand up and like Rico said earlier, if you're not gonna stand up and defend Trayvon Martin, I don't want to hear you getting up for some little white kid that has tragically passed away. Is it wrong that that white kid tragically passed away? Of course it's wrong. Do I have empathy for him? Of course I do. But I've lived in this country and have studied this world long enough to know that, like Mr. Hurd said, K-pop is for Koreans. We all know what the K stands for. You can't buy real estate in Hawaii if you're not Hawaiian. You can't buy real estate in China if you don't have any Chinese descent. Only here in America, the melting pot, can you come over here and have no connection to something and still be a part of it. So I dare you motherfuckers tell the people who built this country to give you this opportunity that you don't have a voice and that you have to play by our rules. And we, the suckers that are supposed to be the go-hards and the roughest and the toughest and the kings and the queens, we constantly take a dry dick in the butt, no Vaseline, from America, from every other race. You want to know what America's like? Go into a Jewish neighborhood as a black person and don't say a word. See how long you last in that neighborhood. Go into an Asian neighborhood, go to Chinatown and don't say a word to anybody. See how long you last in that neighborhood. But they can come to the black neighborhood and they can set up Asian corner stores, Ethiopian corner stores. That's the reason the black dollar only lasts 6 seconds in the black community, because they set up shop in the black community to take your money. But you can't be their neighbor. You can't be their friend. I made a reference earlier to Marion Barry. We all know Marion Barry is the crack mayor of America, blah, blah, blah. But those that have talked to me before know that Marion Barry also created 5 black billionaires. I have not talked to a black person yet that I did not spring that information on them. I'm waiting for people to realize the greatness in us. And like Mr. Hurd said, chew the meat and spit out the bones. We love to focus on the bones so much. We are the bone collectors. But the meat is where the nutrients is at. The meat is where the survival's at. That's the fuel. Just put the additives in your car. Don't put the gasoline in there, and see how far you get.
Can I offer just a wee bit pushback? Just not even pushback for either of you guys. For anybody on the collective is, again, I want to bring the conversation back to what we were saying earlier when we were talking about like these social media spaces, because I think that's what we're talking about.
Right.
And I had said earlier, like, I think we keep forgetting, we keep thinking of YouTube, Instagram, Facebook as these small businesses. They're fucking huge conglomerates. I'm like, Facebook is owned by Meta, who own half the world, and I don't know who the hell. I think YouTube is owned by Google, who's owned by somebody. So like, I mean, I'm like, these. So when we talk about the mainstream media, we always think of television. I'm like, I don't care if you're on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. TikTok's, I think they say that's owned by the Chinese government. I'm like, these are large corporations. So while I don't like the rules, like you said, they said the censorship that they're putting forth. That's what corporations do. So what I'm pushing back on is like, why is everybody surprised about it? It's like, this is the shit they do. If the same way you're not gonna, like if you like, people feel around it, you can't curse on TV because the FTC will sanction your language.
And what is the FTC? The FTC is
I'm sorry, FCC, Federal Communications Commission.
But it's a federal. So it's a government agency. The people that you're talking about, the Googles, the Metas, the Elon Musk, the Zuckerbergs,
they borderline.
These are private.
But what I'm saying is but you're right, 100%. But I'm saying because they're so big, they're behaving in the same way because I think behind them, they have the same pressures that a ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS has, that like, oh, I'm big, I can do what I want. But even online, because at the end of the day, people, I always tell people, like, look, the goddamn internet is still owned by the government. We got to stop believing that this whole internet, the www was invented by the government. Okay. They ain't gave that shit up. They let all these private companies come on and do whatever you want. But if your ass get out of pocket, don't think Uncle Sugar ain't gonna put your ass back in your place. Because it goes back to what you said, B9. They always maintain control. So all over the World Wide Web, those motherfuckers got control. So I tell people, like, do what you want, but don't be careful if all of a sudden one day there's not a knock on the door to say, you got to pull that shit in. Stop it. That's just my belief. I have no evidence. I have no proof. But I think it. That's my Kanye.
Yeah. Well, real quick, Mr. Harris, I don't think Mr. Harris got to answer that question before we move on to the next one. B9, did you have a response real quick before Mr. Harris jumps in on that question?
Yeah, just real quick. That goes back to the mentality of worried about our seat on the bus versus buying the bus. Like, we only got so much time and so much life to live on this earth. And I'm already on the back nine of B9's life. I'm not on the B portion no more. I'm on the 9 portion. So I don't have the time to waste on this shit. So I need to see results. I have seen us put in effort after effort after effort. What I have not seen yet is us cross the damn finish line and break that yellow ribbon with our chests and say we're number one. That's what I want to see by hook or crook. Because the reality of it is, you live in a society where Budweiser makes commercials letting you know point blank, yeah, Prohibition tried to fuck us up, but my great granddad said, fuck them. We did the shit anyway. They're literally admitting to crimes and admitting that, hey, we know what America was built on. We said, fuck them. We praise Martin Luther King. We praise Malcolm X. We praise Muhammad Ali. They did the same thing. They said, you know what? I hear you, America. Fuck you. I'm going to do what I want to do, and whatever consequences come with it, so be it. 20 years later, they're heroes. They're the greatest things ever. Streets are named after them, this and that. Why aren't we paying attention that the same people that we're hating now, not saying it's a guarantee, but it might be the same people who has a boulevard 20 years from now. The next generation is going to decide where we're at. Like I said, and this is my last point, I'm a former school teacher. Never in the history of my evaluations have we not taken into consideration where my students started off at the beginning of the year and where they finished off at the end of the year. B9 can say how great of a teacher he is all day long. I can show you how many donuts I bought, how many pencils, how many this and that. But if everyone in my class failed or they can't tell you what 2 + 2 is, you ain't got to talk to B9. The results speak for themselves.
True indeed. True indeed. Well said, bro. I could probably attack it from a different standpoint. I think yeah, it is a cancel culture circulating in certain instances. And what I would say about that is what I notice is that some people get dictated what stipulations and what circles they have to jump through in order to be added back into the good graces, and other people dictate what they're going to do. Because again, none of this stuff is new. Insensitivities exist. I've seen Starbucks, I've seen Target, so many different corporations, big entities that have had indiscretions, and they let you know, or I'm sorry, they let us know. The employee is going to take a sensitivity class. The employee apologized. We have a banner on the side of our building that says Black Lives Matter, and all is well now. You know, guys, carry on, get back to business. Be sure to come on in and get a $5 coffee tomorrow. But in the other side of the spectrum, you know, Kyrie has to do X and Y and take a sensitivity class and, you know, sit down with the owner and so many things to get back into the good graces. And I think that's where the difference lies for me, is that some people get to dictate what they'll do, and then other people have things dictated to them on what they need to do in order to get back into the good graces. But again, just American, this is what we do. We do something insensitive. We say we sorry, and we're back to it. And I stand more in line with what the brothers are saying. I mean, you know, set your own plate, carve your own table, and just try to be an example of, like he said, man, cheat off their paper, take your name, try to turn it into a brand, you know, try to change the trajectory of what we've been doing, whether that's real estate, whether that's crypto, whether that's, you know, just an organic business from you and your family. But I think that we have to take a different vantage point, a different perspective. And it all starts with this cancel culture. I think that we definitely have to see through that curtain, man. There's a great Oz. There's always a narrative, and you have to be able to build on your square and see, you know, what you're gonna move forward with and what you're not, and eat the meat, spit out the bones is the best way that I can put it. And from Colin Kaepernick to you know, Sam Cooke to everybody, I take a little bit from all of them. I don't dismiss or ignore anybody, and I don't stand or agree 100% with any of them, but I definitely take inspiration, and I try to listen to the message and not just focus on the messenger, and try to be a better person, make better mistakes, and go from there, man.
Can I say one last thing, Rashawn? If it's okay. Kyrie lost his Nike deal for what he said or what he didn't say. It makes me laugh because I remember when people laughed at me for me telling people they better support the Triple B company, Black Big Baller brand or whatever, the LeVar Ball company. And not to say that LeVar Ball was the smartest businessman or, you know, this, that, or whatever. But he put now 3 of his sons in the NBA. So he connected his sons with millionaire players, peers, and billionaire owners. One of them being a black owner, Michael Jordan. Did anybody invest in Black Baller brand? Did anybody say, hey, I see what you trying to do, even though you ain't got your shit together yet? If we pull together the same way Kyrie wants people to pull together now and support him or this and that, I always tell women this shit, but it goes to everybody. Protection comes in 2 forms, proactive and reactive. Most of the time, it's better to see the train 2 miles in front of you before it gets 2 feet in front of you. It's better to be proactive than be reactive. I'm not saying that your reactionary time isn't good enough where you can still beat it at 2 feet. But I'm putting my money on you when you get out the way at 2 miles. When you say, hey, there's no point of me even walking on these fucking tracks. I already heard the sound. That's what we got to start doing to get ahead. Ice Cube's got his Big 3 league going on. What other basketball players, even the ones that actually are playing for him now, are trying to take their money and pool with him to actually become competitors of the NBA? To say, hey, 70% of that league is black.
And the NBA is trying to obliterate his ass too.
And there's only one black owner, who's Michael Jordan. And nothing against Michael Jordan, but he's a corporate nigga. So that's not really black ownership. Where are we going to get together and realize? I hear this Colin Kaepernick talk. I hear this Kanye West shit. I hear Oprah Winfrey, Bill Cosby. When is the best of us going to come together and network together and show us the example that we keep begging for? See, it's so unfair that I ask my kids to secure my house. If I hear a noise in the middle of the night, I'm gonna go tell my daughter where my hammer's at, and you go get the hammer and you go handle it. But that's what we doing with our community. We saying, okay, you guys that's making 40,000, 50,000, 70,000, y'all come together. But Oprah ain't gonna talk to Monique for whatever reason. We can't come together, the best of us. But the weaker ones, the ones that are downtrodden, y'all do the heavy lifting. But I can tell you why Cat Williams don't like Kevin Hart versus 2 of the most prolific comedians in black comedy, even if they work together behind the scenes as producers, we can't see this shit happen. But yet we are expected to do something. Where is our real example? Because that's what real revolution looks like. Colin Kaepernick is connected enough to tell you publicly, buy Coinbase stock, buy Tesla. I'm right around the corner from Silicon Valley. This is what you do, black people. Taking a knee is one thing. Okay, great. But help your people get ahead economically. We all know we're in a capitalist society and we all claim we hate it. You hate it because you don't understand it. But then those that are the best of us, they don't reach a hand down to pull you up to make sure you understand it. No, we do the exact opposite and say, I'm rich, so I'm going to go play a dice game with the hood niggas. What could go wrong there?
But B9, but my question is this. The two gentlemen that Arshawn brought up, what did they do that was better than Colin? Because neither one of them, I hear everything you're saying. I'm hearing everything you're saying. But I'm like, we like, I didn't see Kanye investing in Triple B. I don't see Kyrie doing it. I'm like, I don't see any. So, and I'm speaking just because these are the two gentlemen that he brought up that we're talking about tonight. And I'm like, so why are we giving them cover if these two gentlemen, this is a question, if these two gentlemen did none of what you're saying, which I agree with, because I'm like, I'm trying to, and anybody in the chat that knows, come to me and tell me what Kanye's done for us. Come to me and tell me what Kyrie's done for us, other than being black. Being black is just, they didn't even do that for us. They did that because that's just what they were born into. So I can't get, they were, motherfucker, you were just born that. You probably wish you wasn't. Kanye certainly lives like he wish he wasn't. So if in fact that is the case, and I'm only speaking about these two gentlemen only, I'm like, miss me with their bullshit because I don't see their black cred at all.
And I agree with you. And that's
unless I don't know everything about them, but
I'm glad you went there, Rico, because that's the last page of the book right there. And that's also what I'm saying. I'm saying fuck them all. And so because I'm saying fuck them all, you can't get me upset when you say something anti-Semitic. You can't get me upset when you get suspended from the net. You can't get me upset on any of this stuff because I've been saying fuck all y'all in the first place. And we as a people need to get our shit together. We fight so much to see more black quarterbacks in the NFL. Where's the black ownership in the NFL? That's
Why
what
we've been watching the NFL.
And what are they doing?
But see, here's the thing though. What I said about the eating the meat and spitting out the bones part is because again, there's no way we can all know what these people do behind the scenes. But check out a couple of things that Kyrie did just coincidentally. He donated $323,000 to Feeding America, partnered with City Harvest to ensure that 250,000 meals were distributed to New Yorkers. He partnered with Nike to donate 17 pallets of food and masks to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Mm-hmm. He committed $1.5 million to help pay WNBA players who opted out of the 2020 season. He paid off the college tuition of 9 HBCU students from Lincoln University, and he purchased a house for the family of George Floyd. So again, just because we don't know specifically the things that these people do, and that's again why I say I eat the meat and I spit out the bones, because no matter what somebody does or says, I don't agree with them wholeheartedly, but I can take a little bit of the message. And when the man sat there and said, I want to go home to my family, I don't even want to be sitting here. He also said, how does you asking me basketball questions and then right behind it ask me a question about religion like somehow it correlates? Nobody remembers that he said these things. They just keep griping on things that he didn't even say about this anti-Semitism that he said he wasn't. And again, what I spoke to when I first came up is that what we say just isn't taken. And all I see and hear is reasons to disqualify. Here's why we didn't listen to Colin. Here's why we didn't listen to, and like B9 said, if you fast forward 20 years, we might have Kyrie Irving Boulevard, because nobody talked really well about Muhammad Ali when he was doing what he was doing.
Right, but look, I'm not, remember, I didn't have no exception with Kyrie. My exception was with Kanye. Now, what you the CV that you gave about Kyrie, I'll accept that. Give me the CV, the same CV about Kanye, because again, even if you gave me that same background about Kanye, you still got to measure it against the shit he said. See, Kyrie, I don't have that. I don't have that on Kyrie, and you never heard me bring that up to say all the negative things that Kyrie said about black people, because I have no knowledge of Kyrie saying anything about black people. My point of contention was only about one individual, and I listed off all the things he said about us. Now you got to give me the evidence why I should ignore all that shit. I'm with you on Kyrie. I haven't said one negative word about Kyrie, because other than the fact that I was like, Kyrie just talked too much, but you know what? I don't think what he said was bad, other than the fact that he talked too much. And with the flat earth and all that other dumb shit, I don't think nothing he said was that bad. Kanye, I'm not mad about the shit he said about Jews. I'm mad about what the motherfucker said about us. And that's what I want to counter to. I want somebody to tell me why I shouldn't put my foot sideways in that nigga's ass. Because he said it about us, Mr. Harris. Not about the Jews, about us, about George Floyd, about black people, about fucking our ancestors. I'm mad about what he said about us. We should have cut that nigga nuts off. Because like B9 said, my mayor for life, Marion Barry, who fucking lived. I'm a DC boy too. That's how we roll. So when you see a black man come out and disparage the black community the way that Kanye has repeatedly, not once, not twice, but thrice and so forth. So again, give me his history to counter it. No one ever can. It
doesn't matter.
Well, college dropout. Fuck college dropout. Fuck that shit.
What he do to you, Rico? You so hot. You so hot at this man. God damn.
Bush don't care about black people. Nigga, you don't either. Fuck you. You don't care about black people either. Fuck you.
Rico, what he do?
But when
did he cancel your concert?
What I'm saying though, Rico, is that you're right about that. But you're going to like Rashawn's saying, you're going a little too deep with it, because Shaq has not said publicly disparaging things about black people. But Shaq cares just as much about us collectively as Kanye does. Just as much as Kyrie does. I have a little pushback for Mr. Hurst. Everything that he said about Kyrie's deeds are correct, but all he described is capitalism. That's all that is. That's the good side of capitalism. That's the good side where, you know, we have these scheduled events to make you look a certain way and give you, and just for this reason right here, so when he gets in trouble, he can pull from that resume and say, hey, y'all, don't forget that I'm the one that did this and did that. And so that's why I don't get upset on a Rico level with it in the first place, because when you educate yourself, which Kanye still till this day has not done, his words let you know that he's uneducated. So you can't want to castrate a black man just because he's stupid. Mike Tyson's voice would be even higher some way, somehow, if that was the case, you can't lament stupidity. Stupid is as stupid does. Just because he's a musical genius does not make him a mathematical genius, doesn't make him a political genius, doesn't make him a genius in any other realm. But once we use the word genius, we act like he is well versed in all topics, like he's a Rhodes Scholar. Yes. No, he knows a eighth note from a 16th note from a quarter note. That is genius. So if you get upset over anything out of that realm, it's your fault, Rico.
Hey, not. Let me say this though. Here's the reality, because I hear everybody throwing Shaq and Charles, and I'm gonna get some old Negro shit on you.
Negro sources.
No. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is where I would give Shaq and Charles and all the other ones a blessing or excuse, because it's just sometimes we overthink it. And you know the saying was if you don't have anything good to say nothing. That's Shaq and Charles.
Call them an idiot.
They're not for us, but they know when to shut the fuck up. And sometimes you can win just by that. Do no, or the Hippocratic oath, do no harm in the realm of medicine. Meaning that if I can't cure the patient, just don't make him any worse. Kanye, he can't follow the Hippocratic oath. He don't know when to just shut the fuck up. This is the damage certain people do, because they will come across a problem and rather say, I don't have the solution to the problem, I'll leave it alone. They're still going to indulge into the problem and make it worse. Then when they make it worse, they want to play the victim. You can't do that. Either if you come across a problem, you know the solution, or shut the fuck up. This is the space where we find certain celebrities of ours, because we're in the world of 2022, celebrity, and fake it till you make it, right? Remember, we got the fake it till you make it. I don't have to know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm just going to talk like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. And if I'm causing more damage, not my problem. I didn't tell him to listen to me. People do this. People do this. And I'm just speaking out saying that while I do think that the brother, Mr. West, is musically gifted, he just needs to say, hey, bruh, sit down, shut the fuck up. This ain't your space. This ain't your time. Be quiet. Go back, renegotiate, figure out what you're trying to do. You did enough damage. But he won't. Same thing with Mr. Irving. A lot of people. People sit there, we got into the space, and just to make sure, Arshawn, I was having a conversation earlier with Bro C. I was like, it's not like it just happened to people of color. It happened to white people. Roseanne got canceled when she called Valerie Jarrett looked like a monkey. Then try to blame this shit on fucking pills. Bitch, you racist. You canceled. You dumb. We ain't sick. So I'm like, it happens to white people too. America is a country. We will cancel a motherfucker. And they should be canceled. So when black people get canceled, don't come to me with they just cancel them because they're black. I'm like, no. I canceled Roseanne, white ass too. That bitch made that racist comment. Cancel her fucking ass.
Hey, wrap this one up, Rico.
So that's it.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man. Listen, B9, Mr. Harris, Rico, I really appreciate you. I'm getting ready to close this out. B9, if you are still close by, I need you to go ahead and give you a parting words, whatever last word, bit of wisdom, shout out your whatever you doing right now. All that good stuff.
Well, I just want to say, I'm not a believer in Thanksgiving, but I'm definitely a believer in breaking bread with your family. So for those that are making plans to break bread with their family, I hope you have a safe and wonderful time doing that and make a lot of long lasting memories. I appreciate you for having me on your panel, Rashawn. You are the GOAT. We all know that. My man, Mr. Hurst, my man, Rico. It was a pleasure. Those that are in the chat, it was a pleasure getting y'all's feedback as well. I just want to say have a blessed one and just realize truly they don't give a fuck about any of us, our people, their people, because we live in a society and we've lived in it a long time where everyone's really out for self. All of this community and all of this stuff, we are the minority. And that's why I understand it only takes a small number to make a shift because everybody wants to be with the winner. That's how you solve problems. You actually make it to the finish line as a winner. And once again, how do we do this? We copy off of winners. If you want to be fast in track, guess what? You do Usain Bolt's workout as much as you humanly can. You might not ever get to Usain Bolt level, but you'll get faster. And even if you don't get faster, you know that you getting good information because it's coming from someone who actually did it. So don't be afraid to cheat off of anyone's paper that has achieved the success in life that you want to achieve. I'm not talking about plagiarism in academia or cheating off someone's paper in class or whatever. But there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, that's what mentoring is all about. I like the success that that person has, and I would like to have that same lifestyle, if not better. Oh, they're a lawyer? Maybe I'll look into law school. Oh, they're a surgeon? Maybe I'll look into medical school. Oh, they're an engineer? So forth and so on. So get off your high horse and don't be afraid to learn from the next motherfucker so you can be the greatest motherfucker. God bless y'all. Love you. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you, brother
Hey,
B9.
appreciate you, B9. Appreciate you. I'm gonna drop you. I know you've quit making new content. I believe you said you were stepping away from that for a while, but I know somebody asked about your channel, so they can. You still have your VODs up, right? They can still review your old stuff.
All videos are up. I will be making a video soon to explain this FTX crypto debacle that's been going on, so that I because we're almost at that point where the reset button is been hit. I'll be making videos once we get back to ground zero because I gave a lot of information before, but a lot of my viewers got anxious because this information has never been privy to them before. And they bought high instead of buying low. We buy low and sell high. We don't buy high and deal with the dips unless you're a short seller. So I understand my audience is a lot of beginners, newbies, and novices. So we'll be taking this up from ground zero and building the foundation properly.
Now, B9, I just got a question. I got a question. You can say I see you rolling up as you speak. So I think you both buy and sell high. I think you probably do both high.
I do all.
No, I'm just messing with you, man. But I appreciate you, man. I know B9 called me to go. He beat me to it. B9 is the GOAT, man. His takes, man. I mean, the way his mind works, that guy's mind is amazing. He breaks when people, because a lot of times we're in these conversations. But I promise you were one of my inspirations because like B9, people have a conversation. They'll be coming from 3 different dynamics of the way people perceive things. And you'll be like, no, you're coming from the individual perspective. You're coming from the collective perspective. You're coming from the feminine perspective. You're coming from the macro perspective. And then he'll just line it all up. And you'll see all 10 pins fall down when he finished. I'm like, God dang, I wish I could do that, boy. I wish I strike. You know what I'm saying? Strike. I'm like, God dang it. Like he'll see it real time. I might get it after a minute. I might get it after I've thought about it for a while, but B9 will catch it mid-conversation, how everybody's coming from a totally different lane, and then set it up and lay it all down. I'm like, God dang. But yeah, that's why I call B9 the GOAT. Another man, Mr. Cerebro here, a tribe called here. It's Mr. He Said. Now, another genius level intellect. Mr. He Said, I promise you, I tried to pull some clips from my channel, but when I saw the way this man uses clips, even clips to clips, and we'll talk and break it down into expert sections. So I want him to shout out his channels, his lovely wife, and to let any final thoughts from Mr. Harris, please.
Yo, thank you for having us, man. Thank you for having me. And it was fun. Always fun. Always good to chop it up with Rico. B9, always a pleasure. You as well. Just inspirational, man. You fellas know I'm the first one to say it, and I'll scream it from my box as loud as I can. I come from a neighborhood where it wasn't a common thing to tell a man that you admire him, to tell a man that you like what he doing and you see what he doing and it be taken in a positive fashion. So, you know, I'm at this point in my life that I don't mind letting the fellas know that you guys are an inspiration in how I walk every day, how I curate my family. I take you guys' conversation near and dear to heart. I'm not right hardly ever. And I'm always willing to listen to what you guys say and just learn and build off of the economic, the spiritual, the elder, and the intellectual standpoints that you guys bring. So thank you for having me, man. And I appreciate y'all as a community, and I appreciate y'all welcoming me and the missus into this community and accepting us the way y'all have. So shout out to y'all, man.
Definitely, man. Appreciate you. And brother Rico Young, man, my guy, started this channel with Rico because he was the drinking part of the he was the drinking part. He was definitely the drinking part. But now I really appreciate it because honestly, Rico is another genius level too. I mean, people sell him short because of the drinking part. But this man thinks, like, this man broke down some of the most. I'm like, we were going against Red Pill, and I'm like, how did he even catch that? Like the way you caught faulty stat usage, contextualization, I'm like, Rico caught stuff that nobody else was catching. All the conversations, I'd watch panel after panel after panel. And Rico be like, wait a minute, why is nobody talking about that? I'm like, God dang it. And I thought I was smart. But this guy catches, he will catch a flaw in logic so fast, man. 1.5 gallon of gin. I'm just joking, but I love your passion, your fire, man. Honestly, man, I'm a big fan of all three of you. But Rico, tell us where you are right now and get your closing thoughts in.
Just real quick, you know, let me just say this. First of all, I give all the praise and all the glory and all of Arshawn brought me to this space. You guys wouldn't even be seeing me today right now if it wasn't for Arshawn. It was him who came to me day one. I was just a guest on a previous panel, a previous show that we all were a part of, and I was just in the chat like him, being a little troll. I was doing my Arshawn trolly thing like he was doing, and he was like, "Yeah, these people want me to do a show, and I want to." And he brought me out of it. And Arshawn, people don't realize he's a very much of an introvert, and I'm loving his growth. How he's just like found himself and he's growing in this space. I am loving it. And I know there was a certain period in time where I got a little toxic and I was glad. So I sort of jettisoned myself, or he kicked me to the curb, or whatever, or both. But the fact of the matter was, because I knew that he had more to offer the space than I did. My time is gone and past. And it's just like, I'm trying to just sort of like be an elder to say, hey, do this, do that, because you got the energy and you got the space. You got to know how that's why I say he needs to run. I'll just be the voice behind the curtain because I can't be out front. He can. He has the intellect and the thought. So he brought me into this space, and then I really found my space working with another elder, Bro Clarence, and Let's Talk the Better Black Life. And again, I never left his, but I left from being with him because it was just better off with me being with my generation. But again, I love the conversation. I love us being brought together. He's been with me through every step. You know, it's the boss, right?
I knew that voice. I was like, yeah.
I don't know why he asked me for food. You guys had to provide the food because why I had to cook for him?
Remember him, right?
No, I don't.
She does. She man the dogs and everything. But you know what? This was awesome. You should have been here from the beginning. Don't give me food. I'm hungry. I ain't had all day. This was awesome. We knocked it out of the park. Mr. Harris, man, you killed it. B9, you killed it. Arshawn, again, I can't bless or thank you guys enough. This was great. We got to do it more.
Yeah,
definitely. We got to do it more. And
Reconnect.
Thank you. And I can't thank you enough for you inviting me here. I was glad to stay the whole time. The conversation was dope, and I hope it's helpful for anybody that listened.
For sure, man, definitely. And just so you know, man, you always welcome here. You always got a home here. I know that whole thing. I know circumstances work out for a reason, but I needed to feel strong enough to stand on my own. I needed that confidence. So that happened for a purpose.
I saw it day one.
Yeah.
I saw it day one, but you had to get there on your own, and I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you, son.
Appreciate you, pops. Appreciate you, pops. But yeah, everybody, I want to say thank you to everybody. I am getting ready to what I'm going to do. Anybody that's still on Twitch, y'all can hang on. I'm going to hit the outro and then end the YouTube stream. So B9, Mr. Harris, Rico, I will see y'all soon. Appreciate y'all. Let me drop you gentlemen. Oh, let's see. Appreciate you. All right. So I'm gonna hit the outro, y'all. Anybody on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed. It was a wait. Here we go. Here we go. No, here we go. Listen, y'all know I gotta find out what was happening. Now, listen. Okay, anybody that's still listening, real quick. We were having a conversation the other day on Yellow Stream, talking about the pro-blacks, right? About the pro-blacks, and I guess Hanifa, reacted to that. So now I want to go see what Hanifa had to say about the Yellow Stream because Yellow did go on there. So I am going to go over to Twitch where I can play back videos and stuff and not feel like I'm worried about copyrights and all that weird stuff. I don't know if anybody's striking anything. Thank you. And I appreciate you being. So I'm going to end the YouTube stream, watch Hanifa react to it, see what Yella had to say. Because, I still have some of that troll and I'm still a little messy. You know what I'm saying? I still like a little bit of mess. Then I'm about to hop over to Twitch. But thank you, Risa Neal, for being here. I appreciate it. Because I want to watch that Hanifa stream and see that how that interaction went. Just real quick, I would suggest y'all go back and watch Yella stream. And there was a stream before that Hanifa Naila did with Baba Baruti. And what Yella, as they talked about people that are biracial, and Yella, as somebody that's identifies as biracial, just wanted to know what's his status in like the whole revolutionary movement. Like how do if I'm both black and both white, who am I? What am I to in your philosophy? And it wasn't Hanifa, but the guest responded in a way that, man, I don't sit right with me. The question was that it was basically inconsequential. So I mean, when somebody's asking, "Who am I to you?" and you basically say that's an inconsequential question, you're basically saying you're inconsequential. That's how we all took it. I know Yella took it that way. I took it that way. So go back and watch the conversations to judge for yourself. I just want to go watch and review the reaction to the reaction to the reaction. I want to enjoy some of the messiness of it. So I want to see what Hanifa and Yella's conversation, meaningless, and there was another word that I can't remember, like distractive and meaningless. That's a distractive and meaningless conversation. And if I come to any group and we're like, hey, we're organizing, I'm like, well, what part can I play? Well, that's a meaningless and distractive conversation. Like I can see that being a problem for somebody. So I want to see the exchange that they had. So I'm going to watch that over on Twitch. Again, everybody on YouTube, I definitely appreciate you, Risa and Nay. So I want to definitely hear that because I am not the most I'm not Afrocentric. I don't know much about it. I'm not Afrocentric, and what I'm seeing though, and just my opinion, there's a lot of religious thinking that happens. They just replace one religion with another, and instead of like God and Jesus, it's Africa and Kemet. You know what I'm saying? I believe that some people have a fondness for that, and they have a historical understanding of it. I believe those two are valid, but then there's some people that get into a religious, like dogmatic thinking. And when you can't see the humanity in another person because of the different shade of pigment or something like that, that gets to me. That's a bother. It feels like another form of like division and bullying. And no matter who's doing it, black or white, it's always going to be a problem for me. So I wanted, like I said, I'm going to go watch it. That's what I'm going to do on Twitch. So I'm going to. Well, he wanted to know, like, if they, you know, all that, the whole thing about the whole like black, pro-black, Afrocentric. If you are only half black, it seems like a valid question to me to want to know. God, I think something came up. It came up with the biracial and how mulattoes, that was the word, the mulattoes were used as a managerial class by slave masters to control the lesser slaves, the full blacks and all that. And the one drop rule, it was a conversation about blackness. So it was on Hanifa, Baba Baruti. They were talking about blackness and anti-imperialism, that kind of thing. They were talking about, it was a conversation that involved that. And it slid past Yellow's lane. So he just wondered, like, where do I stand? So the response left a bad taste in his mouth. So me being the troll I am, during Yellow stream, I was in the chat. I was chat trolling. I was enjoying it because I don't have a religious intonation or feeling about blackness. It's a skin pigmentation. I don't see it as something that is the end all be all. So I do know that there are people that hate you because you're black. I do know the systems that are barriers because you're black. I'm not one of those people that negates, it doesn't impact black people. My only thing is I see people impacted that are not black. So it's not simply because you're black, except for certain groups. And those certain groups also hate other groups of people. So, I mean, it's not simply because of your pigment. I can't stop just at pigment. So, yeah, he wanted to know. The response was inadequate. We made fun of it on his stream and they responded on their stream. I wish I could have been there. I wanted to cam up and talk about it because, man, that whole sector, man, it gets to me a little bit. There's some of the, like I would say, the vitriol, it seems like there's some contempt for people that don't share your ideology. Yeah, it's best not to ask. I mean, I wouldn't have asked. I just enjoy the content. I'll listen to the content and either I'll hate watch and be laughing at it or trolling, or I'll watch and I really respect the content. But I respect and love Hanifa, so no matter what, I just, the guest said some crazy stuff, in my opinion. There's been some guests, boy, but it gets like that. Anytime you have a rigid ideology, people start to get a little off in their thinking. The logic starts to leave because you have an ideology. But again, that's just my opinion. I want to appreciate all of you for staying, all of you for participating in the chat. I am going to finally go down and hit that video. I don't know which outro. Maybe we were just talking about Brother Umar. So let's hit that Black Lives Matter outro. Appreciate you, y'all. Oh, wait. Oh, I put it in here. This was a video I was going to play, but YouTube struck it down. But it's in here. YouTube's probably about to cut me off, but I'm going to play it anyway.
How do they make Starbursts taste so juicy?
I don't know. But you just asked the whole universe.
Humans are asking for juice.
And we are the juice.
And the Adidas can't drop me. Now what? Adidas dropped that nigga immediately.
Who the fuck are you? Excuse me. I only debate my equals. All others I teach.
Need all the 150s, let's get it. I'm with this shit, so let's get it. Killing it, leaving nobody, no addicts. Boxer like I'm Lenny Kravitz.
You have cooned so bad, my brother, that they damn near need to put your face in the dictionary next to the word coon. And I don't mean no disrespect, my brother. White man play you like he play Sega. He play you, this is you. He ain't even got to be in the hood. He got this. He played Negroes like this. But they not speaking up against your oppression. I wish another coon, boot-licking, shut-jiving Uncle Tom will get in my face talking about we need to be patient.
We gotta sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all don't want to sweat. Y'all just want to be comfortable.
It's none of your concern. You don't have the right to ask me where I've been. You don't have the right to know what I was doing. You messed up, and I took a break. And guess what? The next time you mess up, I'm going to take another break.